Chapter 870. Li Longji listened to the officials argue back and forth, but in the end, they all wanted to find Zhang Xiaobao. He was extremely dissatisfied. In his view, it was better to only find Zhang Xiaobao when there was no other way. If he could avoid using Zhang Xiaobao, he would avoid using Zhang Xiaobao. Otherwise, if he needed Zhang Xiaobao every time there was a problem, what was the point of having other people? What if he exhausted Zhang Xiaobao to death? Seeing that none of the officials could come to a decision, his expression gradually darkened. Could it be that none of you have been attentively studying Xiaobao's books? When it comes to economic matters, there must be a reason. You can either lead the way or cut off the foundation. If it really doesn't work, you can still compete with the other party in terms of attrition. Xiaobao sent word a few days ago that he was busy with the Turkic matter. Don't distract him, right? Your subjects are incompetent. The officials replied in unison, bowing in tacit agreement. Yuan Rong straightened up and suggested, Your Majesty, since you want economic matters, why don't you ask the people on the top ranking of billionaires for advice and use commerce to govern commerce?
Oh.
Who does minister you think is suitable? Li Longji indicated for Yuan Rong to continue. This subject has heard that there are many new talents on the ranking and that the names of the people on the ranking change frequently. But no matter how many changes there are, the top 3 have never been replaced. The other people on the ranking also have considerable wealth. The third person on the ranking is a great merchant from Hudong Road. He seems to be in charge of all the merchant associations in Hudong Road. The second person is Song Jinggong from Sanshui County. In the past, he had always been in the first place, and it could be said that he had received Zhang Xiaobao's teachings. But since last year, he has fallen to second place. The first person is Xianair, who is of marriageable age, the granddaughter of the former Minister of Revenue, Bai Go. However, many people said that it was not because she was powerful but because she had someone by her side who is now hiding behind her. Her name was Fong Lu, and she had a younger brother, Fong Xiaoman. He was a family that had fled from Tuqiao village in Sanshui County. He was valued by the Zhang family and the Wang family. He was very intelligent and learned a lot of things. He had settled down in the Joy residence and studied the ways of finance diligently. This subject believes that we can ask Fong Lu, to come over and ask about the plan. Using the Spear of Shang to attack the Shield of Shang, we will definitely gain something. Also, that Bai Xianair is currently in charge of the largest clothing and toy stores in our dynasty. Anyone from the Great Tang is proud to be able to own one of these 2 stores. They should have quite a bit of money on hand. Other than Zhang Zhong and Zhang Jiling, who were familiar with the names mentioned by Yuan Rong, the others only knew of the former minister, Bai Go. It was not because of Bai Go's great achievements, but because Bai Go was able to live. He was almost 80 years old, but he was still able to wander around. Furthermore, he liked to be a storyteller. He would often go to a certain tavern to chat and exchange for some wine, dishes, and tea. This made people envious and speechless. Li Longji usually did not ask about this kind of thing. When he heard that the number 1 of the richest people had changed, he was very curious. There is such a thing? Good. Go and ask Fong Lu, to come over. Let her think of a solution. South of the Yellow River, eastern capital Luoyang. As the winter snow melted, rows of oxen were plowing the fields outside the city. Carts of compost were piled up in the fields and scattered everywhere by people. As the fields were turned up, the compost gradually mixed with the soil in the fields. The busy people's faces were red from the wind, but it couldn't hide the joy that came from their hearts. There were countless people coming and going in the city. Carriages and horses were clamoring. The restaurants and tea houses were already filled with all kinds of people by noon. Some were walking, some were resting, some were working, and some were drinking turbid wine, accompanied by a plate of side dishes. There were also scholars who were preparing to go to the capital to participate in the spring imperial examination. They were discussing the current political situation and the ways of learning. They were waiting for the warm weather to continue for a few more days before they took the fast boats specially prepared for the high scholar candidates to go to the capital. Firstly, the boats were fast and there was no need to worry about delays. Secondly, the capital was expensive. Those who were not rich did not dare to stay for long. There were also merchants who took advantage of the arrival of spring to inquire about the prices of various places. They had professional smiles on their faces. Regardless of whether they knew each other or not, whenever they met someone in the same trade, they would find something to talk about. This way, when they needed to be together in the future, they would not seem so distant. If one were to ask which restaurant was the best in Luoyang, it would naturally be between the clouds and the water, not far from Luoyang's capital. It was a 5-story building. The bottom 2 floors were cast from cement and steel. There were all kinds of exquisite patterns in between, complementing the fragrant green grass in front of the restaurant. The top 3 floors were made of mahogany, with ribbons dancing in the wind. The transparent glass windows, the warm winter and cool summer environment, and the feeling of gazing into the distance made between the clouds and the water in the eastern capital a place for the rich and powerful to show off their status. At this time, in the 5th floor of the Luo Water Pavilion, there were 3 people sitting by the window. Below them was the gurgling Luo water. Above them were floating clouds. The room was neither hot nor cold. The temperature indicator hovered between 25 and 26 degrees. Lord Yamamoto, you've worked hard. Storing garlic is an important matter. With Lord Yamamoto's hard work, I can finally free up my hands to do other things. One of the 3 people sitting in a triangle raised his wine cup and loudly praised the person sitting in front of him. The person called Yamamoto had no joy on his face. On the contrary, he was rather worried. Hearing the other party praise him, he also raised his wine cup and said, "Lord Yamamoto, you are the one who suggested this. I was just running errands, so you can't say that I've worked hard. If we're talking about hard work, Lord Yamamoto has worked harder than me. Lord Yamamoto has been busy using the garlic he stored up as collateral, obtaining short-term money from other people and depositing it in a bank so that the merchants who collect the garlic can rest easy. His contribution is greater than mine. And also, Lord Yamamoto, you were able to think of a good plan to raise the price of garlic. As long as we wait for 3 months, we'll definitely have a great harvest. We'll be able to buy many good things from the great Tang and transport them back to our country."
No.
Lord Yamamoto downed the wine in his cup in one gulp and exhaled a breath that reeked of alcohol. He shook his head and said, "I'm not buying things back. I'm continuing to make money with money." The great Tang sold their useless cloth to Japan in exchange for a large amount of sulfur and silver. Many people in our country don't know about the great Tang's insidiousness, but I can't ignore it. Once I've earned enough money, I'll buy their technology and their good craftsmen back to build ships, cannons, and guns. Lord Yamamoto, who had been listening this entire time, had already drunk 3 cups of strong wine, but he hadn't touched a single bite of food. When he heard Lord Yamamoto's words, he worriedly said, "Lord Yamamoto, it's already not easy to earn money in the Great Tang. It's best if we stop as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Zhang Xiaobao realizes what's going on, we'll be at a disadvantage." "Lord Yamamoto, I don't like what you're saying. We haven't broken the laws of the Great Tang. No matter how powerful Zhang Xiaobao is, he's still a human, not a god. I hope that he'll know as soon as possible so that I can compete with him and let him know the methods of the Japanese." Lord Yamamoto clearly didn't think highly of Zhang Xiaobao. When he thought about fighting with Zhang Xiaobao, he seemed eager to give it a try. When Lord Yamamoto heard Zhang Xiaobao's name, his face immediately paled. His hand that was about to pour wine couldn't help but tremble. In the end, he put down the wine pot and advised, "Lord Yamamoto, don't provoke him. Lord Windbridge, don't provoke Zhang Xiaobao. I heard that he is not in the capital, nor is he in Jili province. There are rumors that he went to the Turkic Khaganate. Since he is not here, the 3 months are up. Let's finish this deal and see how he reacts. Otherwise, it will be too late for regrets." "Lord Yamamoto, I'm not you. I won't buy cement and turn it into hard lumps. I also won't spend a lot of money to buy radishes and plant them like ginseng. Don't blame me for your failure. The price of garlic has already risen. Even if he knows, he can't do anything about it. This time, I've shipped over 1 million strings of silver and sulfur from the country. I can't just earn a little and go back. Lord Yamamoto, You have to quickly exchange all the sulfur and silver for Great Tang's money. 3 months later, I'll enter other industries. You have to listen to my orders and contribute to Japan together." Lord Yamamoto and Lord Yamamoto gloomily looked at Lord Yamamoto and Lord Yamamoto. He was clearly dissatisfied with their cowardice. "Yes." Lord Yamamoto and Lord Yamamoto replied respectfully at the same time. Lord Yamamoto revealed a troubled expression. "Lord Yamamoto, Great Tang no longer uses copper coins and silver. The silver we brought isn't easy to sell. Ordinary people don't need so much sulfur, and the production of firecrackers is strictly controlled. If we want to sell it to them, the purity of the sulfur must meet the requirements. Furthermore, Konan province doesn't allow people to refine sulfur privately. We have to think of other ways. Sulfur can't be refined privately, so we can sell it to the place where it is refined. The price can be lowered so that the people who collect the sulfur can benefit. I'm in urgent need of money. Sell the silver to the jewelry shop. You have to contact more merchants in this area. If there's no other way, we can use the silver to exchange for money. I need a large amount of cash to carry out the next plan." Lord Yamamoto was once again dissatisfied with Lord Yamamoto's efficiency. Lord Yamamoto looked at the wine and dishes in front of him and suddenly suggested, "We can send the silver directly to the Great Tang Bank as collateral to exchange for a loan. That bank can eat a lot of silver, but the value of the silver will be much lower. 1 tael of silver can only be used for a loan of 400 copper coins. It won't be the same as before. Collateral, hurry up and do it. As long as I have Great Tang's money, I can earn even more. Don't hesitate and don't be afraid of the loan amount. Cash, I need a large amount of cash." For the sake of his plan, Lord Yamamoto no longer cared about the depreciation of silver. He believed that as long as he had enough currency in Great Tang, he could do many things that others didn't dare to dream of. This time, Lord Yamamoto and Lord Yamamoto didn't try to persuade Lord Yamamoto. No matter how Lord Yamamoto saw it, they could only follow suit. After all, he was the leader. However, the worry in their hearts didn't lessen. This was a matter that affected the livelihood of the people, and Zhang Xiaobao would definitely interfere if he knew about it. Lord Yamamoto hoped that Zhang Xiaobao wouldn't be so sensitive to the price of garlic when he received the news later. Chapter 871. Fong Lu came to Xingqing Palace the next day. She went to Wanyan County to arrange the spring clothing exhibition yesterday and didn't make it back in time. Other than Zhang Zhong, none of the officials invited by Li Longji had seen Fong Lu before. Even Zhang Jiling had only seen her portrait, which was drawn by that old butler of his who didn't do his job properly. The current Fong Lu couldn't find the weak and pitiful appearance she had when she was escaping. She had turned into a slender young lady. She wore a light yellow long dress with a slanted lapel, and half of her exposed calves were covered by a pair of light blue leather boots. Her hair was let down, and there was only a large butterfly clip at the top. Weiwei's curled eyelashes fluttered occasionally, giving off a serene and dignified feeling. However, there was a string of bells on her wrist, which jingled when she moved, adding a hint of liveliness to her appearance. 2 different styles appeared on the same person, giving a huge visual impact. All the officials, including Li Longji, were stunned. Sanshui Tuqiao Village's Zhang family's deacon, Fong Lu, greets your majesty and all the lords. Greetings, old master. Spring is here, and the grass is green, and the flowers are blooming. It's just right for me to wear a long dress. Please take a look, your majesty and all the lords. Fong Lu bowed to Li Longji and the other officials generously. The address of Old Master was naturally for Zhang Zhong. After she finished speaking, she started walking in front of everyone. She would turn around or pose, showing the dress she was wearing to others. It's indeed very beautiful. I'll get someone to order a few sets later. All right, Fong Lu, you don't have to continue advertising. You're really dedicated. Even when you see me, you didn't forget to promote your spring clothing. Li Longji watched for a while and suddenly realized that he wasn't looking for Fong Lu to buy clothes. He had something important to discuss, so he quickly stopped Fong Lu from performing. Oh, okay. Your Majesty, you'll get a 20% discount. Fong Lu stopped and stood there, not forgetting to give Li Longji a discount. Yuan Xianyao took over the conversation and asked Fong Lu, Fong Lu, have you noticed that garlic has increased in price recently? Fong Lu nodded.
Yes.
Moreover, as soon as the price was raised, I had my men purchase a lot of garlic from other places and told Uncle Song about it. That's why the Between the Clouds and the Water and the Blue Sea Silver Sand restaurant don't lack garlic. They'll be able to last until new garlic is harvested. Lu Zhou's Between the Clouds and Seas restaurant won't be affected for now. Yuan Xianyao's mouth twitched, not knowing what to say. Du Xian, who was standing at the side, stood up and asked, Fong Lu, since you already found out, why didn't you tell us? Did you only tell your master? Do you know how serious your crime is?
Why
should I tell you? I'm a deacon of the Zhang family, not a deacon of the imperial court. I'll tell you now, children often have runny noses during spring. We've specially made clothes for this. There's a pocket in the front, and there's a tissue in the inside. When the adults see their children's runny noses, they'll be able to find a tissue to wipe it off. It'll be all the rage for a while. Fong Lu looked at Du Xian in confusion. She gestured with her hands and recommended a new product. Du Xian was taken aback by the question. He thought to himself, my children don't need these clothes anymore. What's the use of telling me this? Hence, he asked, it's useless to tell me about this. Then I'll tell you. Now that the spring river in Gyeonggi province and the surrounding areas is thawed, there'll be plenty of fish. However, the price will still be high. This is because many people are sick of eating other kinds of meat during winter. It's a good opportunity to taste the freshness of fish. I reckon that within a month, the demand for fish will skyrocket. If you want to earn money, you should buy more fish as soon as possible and send your men to catch them. Fong Lu told Du Xian another thing. After Du Xian heard this, he replied, this has nothing to do with me. All right then. Because the Yellow River has opened up, most of the consumables have been used up due to transportation difficulties in many places. We need to prepare some as soon as possible. When the first transport fleet sets off, we can send them over and make a lot of money. Fong Lu continued to give Du Xian ideas. After the others, including Li Longji, heard this, their eyes lit up. It was indeed as Fong Lu had said. If they really followed her suggestion, they would definitely be able to make a lot of money. There was no empty seat under her great reputation. The mastermind behind the number one person on the top list was indeed amazing. Just a random idea and there was hope for them to make money. Du Xian was a little tempted. Suddenly, he realized that they were talking about garlic now. It had nothing to do with anything else. He immediately asked, then, what does it have to do with me? I'm asking you about garlic. Fong Lu glanced at Du Xian. You don't think it's okay to talk to you about this now? Back then, when the price of garlic increased, what could you do if I talked to you about garlic? You said that garlic had nothing to do with you. Anyway, you don't eat much garlic. You're in charge of discussing important matters. You didn't mention it, so it has nothing to do with you. However, there are many things in the world that are unpredictable. It's hard for the master to understand, so the servant should think about it first. It's a responsibility. Clouds change constantly. Water is formless. Only after the rain does the master know that the sky is cloudy. It has nothing to do with what you said about opening up the river to transport goods. If I want to do it, I'll transfer the river boats of the Zhang family and Wang family. If they don't send out the goods, the price of goods up and down the Yellow River will definitely increase. Does it have anything to do with you? Fong Lu's voice grew louder and louder. Du Xian kept retreating. His face was red from the scolding, especially when Fong Lu mentioned transferring the river boats of the Zhang family and Wang family to hold the goods. He was shocked. If he really did that, the impact would be greater than the Win logistics. Yuan Rong saw that Du Xian was at a loss for words. He coughed and said, Miss Fong is indeed extraordinary. The Zhang family and Wang family do put the people's livelihood first. Otherwise, the Tang Empire will definitely be in chaos. I've heard that Miss Fong is smart and knowledgeable in astronomy and geography when she was young. You were even valued and nurtured by the Zhang family and Wang family. Now that I've met you, you live up to your reputation. Official Du is also anxious and has offended you with his words. Please don't blame him. However, now that the price of garlic is increasing, I'm afraid that His Majesty will not stop it. Later on, other things will continue to increase in price. I've called Miss Fong here to ask about a plan. Miss Fong, do you have any ideas? Du Xian looked at Yu Wenrong gratefully and secretly wiped the sweat on his forehead. He just remembered that Fong Lu was not an ordinary girl. She was chosen by the Zhang family and Wang family since she was young and carefully taught. She was no less knowledgeable than him. It was said that she had a photographic memory and was good at calculation. If no one else spoke up for him, he would probably have to apologize to His Majesty after she finished speaking. Zhang Zhong smiled faintly at the side. He was very satisfied with Fong Lu, and thought to himself, that's right. Let them think that they can do whatever they want just because they're officials. How dare they threaten the Zhang family? Humph, how can the deacons of the Zhang family be so simple? After thinking about it, Zhang Zhong said to Fong Lu, since His Majesty asked you to come here and ask about it, tell us if you have any ideas. We can't let the people who hurt our people be proud. Fong Lu, respected Zhang more than Li Longji. Without the Zhang family and Wang family, she wouldn't be where she was now. Even if she didn't starve to death, she wouldn't be able to live the life she had now. When she heard Zhang Zhong's words, she bowed respectfully and said, I know that it's Wind Logistics who did this. They used the logistics as a starting point and didn't sell the goods. They also set up a 3-month payment cycle. I've seen the copy of the contract. It says 3 times the payment, but it doesn't say that they have to pay 3 times the amount. In less than 3 months, the new garlic will come out. If the price of the garlic is high, they will sell the goods in advance and then buy cheap new garlic to compensate others. If the price of the garlic is still high, they will use money to compensate. I think that in the end, the price of the garlic will be too high and they will lose money. In this way, they can gain a lot of benefits from this. No matter what I do, they will definitely profit from this. Unless the merchants who see the benefits will stop gathering money to buy the garlic, the people will definitely suffer. Can't we stop them? Gao Lisher asked with a frown. Fong Lu, didn't say anything for a moment. She lowered her head and thought about it. The others looked at her, hoping that she could come up with a good idea. This was the first time they encountered such a situation. Moreover, it was a situation where they wanted to suppress it. If they didn't suppress it, they wouldn't have to worry about it. However, everyone was gradually becoming more and more concerned about the economy. If they didn't suppress it, they would definitely be letting the people down. After a while, Fong Lu raised her head and said helplessly, I can only ask them to stabilize the price at the current level. When the new garlic comes out, they will still be able to make money. As for making them lose money, I can't do it. When the officials heard this, they all looked regretful. What they wanted to see the most was Wind Logistics losing money from this incident. They wanted to see if they still dared to casually make a move. However, even the person who ranked first couldn't think of a way, let alone them. Li Longji glanced at Gao Lisher. Gao Lisher said, What's the plan? Order the Tang Bank to lower the collateral fee of the goods as much as possible and not to lend to Wind Logistics. Also, order the Military Arms Control Department to not collect sulfur in the near future. I investigated when the garlic price was rising. Their deposit was exchanged with silver and sulfur shipped from Japan. Now they are still holding a lot of goods. As long as the deposit is not enough, other merchants who want to get benefits from it won't dare to let them continue to ship the goods. They will be forced to sell the garlic slowly now and wait for the new garlic to come out before buying the new garlic to compensate. The profit will be slightly lower. Fong Lu wanted to mobilize the 2 main departments as soon as she opened her mouth. This was the plan she thought of. Yu Wenrong thought for a moment and asked, Then what if they use the garlic, silver, and sulfur themselves to engage in usury in private? If the bank changes the collateral ratio, the private lenders will do their best to lower the price. They won't dare to accept sulfur, but Who would dare to give garlic a high collateral price? We can spread the news and let other merchants know that Win Logistics doesn't have enough funds. Fong Lua replied. Then what if they would rather lower the price and engage in usury than go and collect the garlic themselves to raise the price? Yu Wenrong asked again. Fong Lu smiled this time. If they dare to collect the garlic themselves, I will make them suffer losses. Once they directly participate in this business, I have many ways to deal with them. I'm just afraid that they won't interfere. The officials were slightly relieved. They felt that it was good to control the price of the garlic to the current level. When the new garlic came out, the price would naturally fall. As for how the other party would lose money if they directly bought the garlic, there was no need to worry. They thought that Fong Lu had the ability to do what she said. Only Li Longji wasn't happy. He didn't want the current price to be stable, but he wanted Win Logistics to suffer losses so that they wouldn't dare to make a move again. Thus, he asked Fong Lu, hopefully, is there really no way to make them lose money? Fong Lu shook her head regretfully. Your Majesty, I can't think of a good idea at the moment. However, if I tell the young master and he takes action, there definitely won't be a problem.
Sage.
Looks like I have to send a message to Xiao Bao. Hopefully, he's not so busy and has time to deal with this matter. Li Longji sighed and looked at Gao Lisher. Gao Lisher nodded and was about to send a telegram. At this moment, the little eunuch Luo Bin rushed in and reported to Li Longji, Your Majesty, the chefs from Savant's restaurant suddenly came. They're just outside the palace, saying that they want to cook for Your Majesty. The one leading them is Master and I, the head chef of the flagship restaurant between the clouds and the water in Tuqiao Village, Sanshui County. Li Longji looked up at the sky. It's still early to noon. Why are they here to cook at this time? He looked at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong was confused. He also didn't know why the chefs from Savant's restaurant were here. If Master and I wasn't in Savant's restaurant, then when did he come back? Seeing Zhang Zhong's eyes, Li Longji knew that he didn't know either. He asked, Who sent them here? They said that it was Zhang Jidushi. They said that he could solve Your Majesty's problems. Luo Bin replied. Xiao Bao sent them? Solve my problems? I'm thinking of how to deal with Win Logistics now. Do you think you'll know the solution after eating? Go. Bring them to the Imperial Kitchen. Li Longji didn't know what Zhang Xiaobao was up to, but he still agreed. Your Majesty, they said that they want to cook in front of you at Xingqing Palace, Luo Bin said. Then bring them to Xingqing Palace. Did they bring tools and ingredients? Li Longji agreed according to Zhang Xiaobao's wishes. No, they said to ask the Imperial Kitchen to do it. I'll go arrange it now. Luo Bin didn't need the emperor to tell him to go to the Imperial Kitchen. He came in a hurry and left in a hurry. They waited for about half an hour. During this time, Li Longji had been talking to Fong Lu. He asked her what he needed to pay attention to since it was the beginning of spring, what kind of goods had the biggest price fluctuation, whether it needed to be suppressed, how the preparations for the clothing exhibition were going, what was strange about making clothes for children, and so on. Fong Lu answered him fluently and emphasized that the most likely problem was in the logistics. She told the emperor not to worry. Zhang family and Wang family would make corresponding adjustments to the daily necessities. As long as others didn't specifically target a certain item to create hype, then according to the law, the price fluctuation would naturally remain within a certain range without the need for Zhang family and Wang family to do anything. Even if someone did something, they didn't need to do anything about the daily necessities such as canned food and drinks. Of course, condiments like garlic were an exception. Although it wasn't a necessity, many people liked it. As for the price rise of meat, they didn't need to do anything about it. They could still eat other things. As Li Longji and the other officials listened, they realized that there were still many dangerous aspects in Tang. It seemed stable, but in fact, it was constantly changing. It was just that the extent of the changes was within an acceptable range. The only way to control it was to go with the flow and adjust it from the side. Li Longji sighed in his heart. In this era of technology explosion, the country is at its most unstable period. If it weren't for the Zhang family and Wang family controlling the price of daily necessities like salt, tea, oil, cloth, rice, flour, medicine, and so on, there would definitely be merchants taking advantage of the situation to gain a lot of benefits. At that time, the members of the imperial clan and the various clans would also reach out and try to stop the situation when they noticed that something was wrong. However, they wouldn't even be able to kill all of them, and the throne might not be as stable as it is now. From the looks of it, I can only wait for more people to understand technology, for more children to become more knowledgeable and not so easily deceived. After this period of explosion and stabilizing, I won't need the Zhang family and Wang family to worry about controlling the situation. If it weren't for the garlic incident, I wouldn't have thought so much about it. At such a crucial time in Tang, the Zhang family and Wang family are actually doing so silently. Perhaps this is the true meaning of boundless love. No, boundless love.
They are only loyal to Tang.
While Li Longji was thinking about this matter, the others were also thinking about their own matters. It wasn't until Master and I led the team of cooks to Xingqing Palace that the crowd became lively again. All kinds of cooking tools and ingredients were delivered at the same time. Master and I and the others had clearly changed their clothes and were probably taking a bath. One was to be clean, and the other was to be afraid that someone would carry poison with them. The officials also understood that the other party didn't bring anything with them because they were afraid that it would be troublesome to check. At this time, Zhang Zhong stepped forward and nodded to the cooks and his family. He didn't stand back, and it seemed that he planned to taste each dish first after it was done. There was no need to check for poison since his cooks couldn't poison him. Master and I didn't say much. After bowing, he began to organize the people. Those who were in charge of the knife were in charge of changing the knives, those who were in charge of preparing the dishes, and those who were in charge of cooking stood in front of the stove to wash and pick the vegetables. Those who were good with knives took out a set of knives and prepared to carve. Li Longji was looking forward to the taste of the dishes specially sent by Zhang Xiaobao. The eyes of the other officials also lit up. They knew that the cooks in front of them represented the top culinary skills of the chefs between the clouds and the water. Usually, even if they went to between the clouds and the water or blue sea silver sand, they wouldn't be able to eat. Now that they didn't need to eat, they felt honored just by looking at the lineup. The team led by Master and I naturally wouldn't let the Emperor wait for half an hour before the dishes were served. Not to mention the Emperor. Even between the clouds and the water or blue sea silver sand wouldn't let the guests wait for half an hour. The rule was that if the dishes weren't served in half an hour, the next dish would be served free of charge. If the dishes were still not served after the other people finished eating, they would have to deduct a little more from the price of the dishes. Only in this way could the difference between the dishes between the clouds and the water and blue sea silver sand be reflected. Therefore, the dishes were served faster for the Emperor. As soon as the oil was poured into the pot, 2 plates were served. Ginger ice prawns. Other than the simple shredded ginger, there was only ice prawns. There was no vinegar, soy sauce, or any other nonsense. Because the ingredients were all taken from the imperial kitchen, this dish didn't have any special taste. The ice prawns were still ice prawns, and the ginger was still ginger. Li Longji didn't eat it. If he wanted to eat this kind of dish, he could eat it at any time. The second cold dish was clams mixed with scallions. Only a little oyster sauce was sprinkled on top. The third cold dish was cucumber peeled with scallions and sesame sauce. The fourth cold dish was shredded chicken with ginger sauce. Only the shredded ginger was stir-fried with a few other seasonings. The chicken was originally prepared. After the 4 cold dishes were served, the first hot dish was served. Sliced chicken with scallions, bean sprouts, chicken, and a few other supplementary ingredients were served. Only then did Li Longji pick up his chopsticks. Without waiting for Zhang Zhong to taste first, he directly picked up his chopsticks and ate. As soon as the dish entered his mouth, Wei Wei nodded. Not bad. When the earthy taste of the bean sprouts and the light taste of the chicken are mixed together, it actually became fresh. Adding the scallion oil, it's very appetizing. Everyone try it. When the officials saw the emperor directly eat a mouthful, they couldn't help but glance at Zhang Zhong. The meaning behind their gazes was self-evident. How big of a face did the emperor have to have him eat directly, without letting anyone test for poison? Although it was impossible for the chefs to carry poison with them, it was still possible to make poison out of things that counteracted each other. Who didn't know that when someone wanted to send a dish to the emperor, the hot dish would become cold when it entered the emperor's mouth? It seemed that other than Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan personally coming to cook, there had never been a time when the emperor immediately picked up his chopsticks. Now, Zhang Zhong was the second person to do so. Zhang Zhong was also very excited. He was the second person to pick up a piece and stuffed it into his mouth. He didn't care whether it was delicious or not. He swallowed it as fast as he could. The others also came to taste one by one. Fortunately, there weren't many people invited by Li Longji, so there was enough for each person to take a bite. When the first plate of sliced chicken in scallion oil was finished, the second dish, braised mackerel with scallion and ginger, was also served. Following that, the third dish, shredded pork with sweet noodle sauce, was also immediately served. It was actually shredded pork with sweet noodle sauce, but it wasn't called that yet. From then on, one dish after another was served. Some dishes that took a long time were also prepared and would be served in a while. When it was time to eat the 10th dish, a box filled with a mixture of scallion, beef, and pork was also served as the main dish in front of Li Longji. Li Longji only tasted 2 mouthfuls of each dish and didn't eat more. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to eat the next dish if he was full. After eating 2 boxes and drinking some wine, when the stir-fried pork ribs with scallion oil were served, Li Longji and the other officials finally discovered the problem. In all of the dishes, whether it was the main ingredient or the supplementary ingredients, there was no garlic. There were scallions, ginger, cloves, and even flowers and spices, but there wasn't a single bit of garlic. However, the taste wasn't affected at all. On the contrary, it made people feel that garlic shouldn't be added, otherwise, the taste would become worse. When the last dish of stir-fried crab meat with ginger was served, Master and I bowed to Li Longji and said, "Your Majesty, the young master sent a telegram asking us to cook for your Majesty. He also said that these dishes won't be a secret dish between the clouds and the water and blue sea silver sand. I reckon that they've already been sent by telegram to various places in Great Tang and sent to various restaurants. In addition, the north is warm and cold in spring. Day Medical College has already developed tonics that will be sent to various places in the north. However, I heard that the tonics can't be eaten with garlic. Your Majesty must remember when eating them." Okay, not eating garlic.
Good, not eating garlic.
Li Longji's eyebrows rose as he repeatedly agreed. If he still didn't know Zhang Xiaobao's method at this time, then he would really be a fool. Good method. As long as people don't eat garlic and like to eat other things, the price of garlic won't rise. Especially when these dishes are taught by between the clouds and the water and blue sea silver sand, they will definitely become popular. What a good method to take the firewood from under the cauldron. Xiaobao's strategy is indeed extraordinary. Zhang Juling immediately felt that the dishes he just ate were incomparably delicious and praised. Yu Wenrong also nodded. Not bad. Once the Win Logistics is used, there's no other way. Unless they also have a brand like Between the Clouds and the Water and Day Medical College. One move. Is it just one move? Li Longji suspiciously asked. He understood Zhang Xiaobao very well. He didn't just lose in one confrontation. As someone who was familiar with Zhang Xiaobao's way of doing things, he didn't think that Zhang Xiaobao only thought of this method. Gao Lishir interrupted, "Your Majesty, this subject thinks that this subject's son. This subject's adopted son won't be so simple." Xiaobao's strategy has always been stacked. This time, the Win Logistics is in trouble. I just don't know how Xiaobao found out about this matter. Xiaobao seems to have accompanied Mo Jianchong to Sanshui County. Gao Lishir had already treated Zhang Xiaobao as his own son and habitually spoke. When he found that the other person's father was still standing at the side, he could only change his words. However, he was also happy. An adopted son was also a son. In the future, when he died, he would also have to send him off. Zhang Zhong was faintly jealous in his heart. His good son had to be recognized as an adopted son by others. He always felt that it was a loss. That was the son of a god. This Gao Lishir was not afraid of shortening his life. He said a little angrily, since Xiao Bao has a plan, why didn't he tell me, his father, earlier? He should have told the emperor earlier. It's too unreasonable. Others didn't answer him.
Don't look at how he said it.
He was Zhang Xiaobao's father. If others followed him, it would be easy for Zhang Xiaobao to know about it. At this time, Master and I explained, "Please forgive me, Master. Last night, the little Gongzi sent the news. We have been busy thinking about how to arrange the dishes, so we didn't have time to tell you. I also rushed back from Wanyan County overnight. The little Gongzi should have another plan to tell others and is in the process of implementing it. As for how the little Gongzi knew about the garlic, the news is already said that when the little Gongzi arrived at Sanshui County, he casually asked the county magistrate and found that the price of garlic had increased. He felt that something was wrong, so he asked people to investigate overnight and made a plan with the fastest speed. It's all my fault. It has nothing to do with the little Gongzi. You are loyal. Isn't it because your family was too honest and was bullied? Then Xiao Bao found you to be the head chef and helped you solve the problem. He said to you, you can't do this kind of calculation and I can't cook. Whether the success of Between the Clouds and the Water will be successful depends on you. You even know how to cover for him." Zhang Zhong said another sentence to Master and I, but his words were full of praise. Naturally, he didn't know that his son was learning from the story of how the man surnamed Jiang bought people's hearts when he was defending the front line of the Yangtze River. When Master and I heard his master mention this matter, his eyes immediately turned red. He lowered his head and said to Zhang Zhong, "Master, please don't worry. As long as I'm here, the dishes of Zhang Zhong and Wang family's restaurants will definitely be unique in Tang." Okay, you two, master and servant, don't talk about your daily life. Xiao Bao is really not ordinary. He can find the problem by just asking about the situation of Sanshui County. I just don't know what other plans he has. We'll wait and see. Li Longji stopped Zhang Zhong and Master and I from continuing to talk. Then he said to Master and I and the others, "Good, the dishes are good. They are even better than my imperial chef. Sure, Li Sure. Go and find out what Xiao Bao's next plan is. I want to know." After Master and I left, Gao Lishur was also busy finding out things. He didn't need to ask others and directly sent a telegram to Zhang Xiaobao. Fong Lu didn't leave after she was full. She blinked her eyes and thought hard about what should be after this plan of taking drastic measures. If she could figure it out, she would go further. On the daily, Longji tasted the dishes made by Master and I. All the restaurants in the Tang Empire that could receive the telegram knew about the new dish. Because it was Between the Clouds and the Water, it received a lot of attention. Especially in the areas that were affected by the increase in the price of garlic, they found that all the dishes didn't need garlic. Apart from saving some money on garlic, the smart people faintly felt that the increase in the price of garlic was resisted by Between the Clouds and the Water and Bihai Insha. This was not a small matter. Between the Clouds and the Water was supported by the Zhang family and Wang family of Sanshui County, the provincial governor and deputy provincial governor of Bohai County, and the minister of the Ministry of Works. If they took action, didn't it mean that the current emperor also acquiesced in this matter? Therefore, these smart people immediately started to follow the steps of Between the Clouds and the Water. The dishes made at noon that day made them happy again. Many people who came to eat said that the new dish was good after tasting it. One was novel, and the other was not bad. Who said that one had to use garlic to cook? Fengqiao Zheng'er and Yamamoto Yuji also tasted the new dish at noon on the 5th floor of Between the Clouds and the Water restaurant. When the waiter specially introduced that the new dish didn't need garlic, Fengqiao Zheng'er was stunned, and Yamamoto Yuji was dumbfounded. "It's over. I said that this won't work. It's only been a few days, and Zhang Xiaobao already knows. Fengqiao, hurry up and sell the garlic. If you sell it now, when the new garlic is sold, you can buy it to compensate others. We can earn less." Yamamoto was in a daze for a while, and then he advised Fengqiao Zheng'er, who was still stunned, with a pale face. Yamamoto Yuji's expression was not good either. It was not the first time that he and Yamamoto had fought with Zhang Xiaobao, but every time they fought, they would suffer losses. There was also the people of Xinlua. Just look at the Chamber of Commerce that was trapped in Chongning. As long as they encountered Zhang Xiaobao, they would not have a good time. Feng Xiaozhenger was stunned for a while, and then he looked at Yamamoto Yuji and asked, Zhang Xiaobao is so free to care about the price of garlic? Was he targeting merchants specifically? As long as a businessman finds something that can make money, he will definitely stop it? No, definitely not. Yamamoto shook his head. He doesn't care about normal business matters, but he is against any business that has a deceptive nature, especially those that affect people's lives. As for other aspects, he doesn't care. It's up to whoever can make money. But as long as someone wants to make salt, grain, silk, medicine, oil, and other things, he will definitely persuade them. If he can't persuade them, he will immediately use thunderous means. Then he didn't persuade us. Feng Xiaozhenger argued. Because we are not from the Tang Empire. What he hates the most is people from other countries around the Tang Empire coming to find trouble with them. It is said that he has endless things to do all day long, and he is unwilling to waste his energy on this aspect. So, once he encounters someone, he will very firmly let them know what can be done and what cannot be done. Oh, I heard that he has a special training class that he will teach personally. Even if they can't meet, they will communicate through letters. Those people should still be learning, and when they learn his skills, he will let them go. Yamamoto Yuji, and I also signed up and spent a lot of money to sign up. In the end, we found out that Zhang Xiaobao will only teach people who are loyal to the Tang Empire. Before he started teaching, there was a test. Yamamoto Yuji and I didn't expect that it was arranged by him, so we were eliminated. Yamamoto Yuji said to Feng Xiao. He was very angry when he thought of what had happened in the past. What test? Feng Xiaozhenger was puzzled. Yamamoto had never told him this before. It's a test of loyalty. Some people will be found by others and arranged for their families to be sent to other places. They will also give them many benefits. After they finish learning, they will secretly write down the knowledge that isn't very important to them. In the end, all those who agree to it will be eliminated. Yamamoto Yuji explained one of the tests, and Yamamoto Yuji continued. There is also a case where a person sent by a certain prince will be given a high position, but that person will have to help the prince do 3 things. The prince will guarantee the safety of the person and his family, but those who agree to it will still be eliminated. There is also a case where the person who wants to learn is told to write down what he has learned. If he doesn't do it, he and his family will be harmed. Those who are afraid are eliminated again. In the end, they regret it when they find out that the family of those who want to learn is protected by the 10,000 Cavalry Battalion. There is no need to worry about them. Feng Xiaozhenger understood and asked Yamamoto Yuji, What about you guys? How are you eliminated? Us. Yamamoto Yuji and Yamamoto Yuji looked at each other and sighed. Sigh. We were found by the people of Xinlua. They said that they are also learning. Maybe everyone is learning something different. When the time comes, we will share it with each other and learn from each other. Yamamoto Yuji, and I thought it was right. When the time comes, we will try our best not to share the good knowledge with the people of Xinlua. Oh. Feng Xiaozhenger understood and suddenly asked with interest, Then help me think of a way. I will definitely pass the test if I learn it. It's too late. It's only one world. I don't know when the next world will be. It's better to think about the current situation. It's probably not easy to sell garlic anymore. Yamamoto was worried again. Feng Xiaozhenger also returned to reality. He lowered his head and looked at the dishes on the table. He tried to think of a way. He didn't believe that he would lose so quickly and so easily. A few dishes between the clouds and the water had ruined his plan. There must be another way. Yamamoto Yuji and Yamamoto Yuji also wanted to help, but when they considered that their opponent was Zhang Xiaobao, they were confused. In their hearts, Zhang Xiaobao was invincible. If they didn't want to be fooled, the best way was to not interact with him. Otherwise, it would definitely not end well. Now that they didn't want to interact with him, but he still came looking for them. As long as more people recognized other seasonings, garlic would not be able to sell at a high price. Feng Xiaozhenger was like a newborn calf. He was full of fighting spirit. He was unwilling to admit defeat. After thinking for a quarter of an hour, he smiled and asked Yamamoto Yuji confidently, "Do you think garlic is really bad?" "Of course not. Garlic is still delicious when eaten together with meat. But it's useless for us to understand. Nowadays, many restaurants don't cook dishes with garlic. It's useless for people to be picky. I know this. The power of trends in economics is also the role of brands. Zhang Xiaobao has between the clouds and the water." "That's enough." Yamamoto shook his head, but he still couldn't think of a way. Yamamoto Yuji was worried. "Feng Qiao, don't you understand? Zhang Xiaobao doesn't want to use administrative means to deal with us. Otherwise, we will be doomed. For example, he will order the Tang Bank to not give us any loans. For example, he will ask the government to strictly investigate and hoard. Hurry up and let go. Otherwise, it will be too late. You don't understand Zhang Xiaobao. He is using food to suppress us. Soon, he will use other methods. Really, I'm not lying to you." Just as they were talking, the waiter knocked on the door and came in. "Sirs, our shop is taking advantage of the beginning of spring to launch a very cheap, nourishing medicinal diet. We choose ordinary-looking medicinal herbs and combine them with special craftsmanship. The medicinal diet will strengthen the body and strengthen the body. Please try it, but remember not to eat it together with garlic." After the waiter finished speaking, he left the medicinal cuisine. Yamamoto pointed at the medicinal cuisine and said to Feng Qiao Zhinger, "Feng Qiao, did you see that? Zhang Xiaobao's second hand is out. I estimate that it won't be long before these dishes and medicinal cuisines reach ordinary people's homes." The waiter just said that the herbs are easy to find, which means that it's not expensive. Feng Qiao Zhinger's expression became serious. He felt that he had finally met his opponent, and that was Zhang Xiaobao. As for whether Zhang Xiaobao treated him as an opponent, he didn't think about it. He picked up his chopsticks and tasted the medicinal cuisine. He didn't know if it was because it tasted good, or if it was really good, or if it was just his imagination, but in any case, he approved of it. After swallowing the food and putting down his chopsticks, Feng Qiao Zhinga said to Yamamoto and Yamamoto, "It's impossible for Tang not to eat garlic forever. Even if it's a few months, it's impossible. The current situation is fake. Zhang Xiaobao is deliberately using this to force us to sell the garlic ahead of time. But I definitely can't sell it. If I sell it, I will lose money. Don't just think about the 3 times compensation and the current price of the garlic. When we pawned the goods, the price was not the real price. Whether it was the Great Tang Bank or private loans, our silver and sulfur can only get 2/3 of the money. In addition to the money we spent on hiring people and public relations, if we sell it now, for every kilogram of garlic sold, we will lose 2 taels of garlic. We are here to make money, not lose money." Yamamoto nodded vigorously to show that he understood. "Feng Qiao, I understand. But if we don't sell it now, we will lose more than 2 taels of garlic. Then don't sell it. Continue to find people to pawn the silver and sulfur. Also, collect the garlic and give them 5 times the compensation. But the compensation period will be half a year. Show those merchants our silver and sulfur and tell them that within 3 months, a large amount of silver will be shipped from Japan." Feng Qiao Zhinger said confidently, as if he already had the victory in his hands. "But no silver will be delivered in 3 months, Yamamoto said. They don't know. Even if it doesn't work, we have to bribe the relevant people and make them believe us. Go, do it. Trust me, we won't lose." Feng Qiao Zhinger looked at Yamamoto and Yamamoto seriously with a firm gaze. If it was in the past, his gaze and belief would have been useful, but not now. Yamamoto smacked his lips and shook his head. "Okay, I'll listen to you. But this time, it's Zhang Xiaobao. I won't count on him." The 3 of them didn't enjoy the meal at all, even though the chef at Between the Clouds and the Water was very good. As soon as the 3 of them left the restaurant, they split up. Feng Qiao Zhinger went to deal with the matter of increasing the compensation by 5 times. Yamamoto arranged the transportation of the goods, and Yamamoto was in charge of the public relations. They wanted to get more money to operate. Feng Qiao Zhinger's work went very smoothly. As soon as he said that the compensation would be increased by 5 times, Many merchants began to buy the garlic and gradually increase the purchase price. Yamamoto didn't have much to do. He just had to hide the garlic and find a dry place that didn't lack water. The mountain temple was not easy to deal with. He had just eaten and had to find people to eat and drink. He also had to bribe people with money. Even so, the people did not relent. This was because the people who had lent him money had found out that Zhang Xiaobao had made a move. In their hearts, Zhang Xiaobao was a godlike existence. Who would dare to give money to the wind when he was involved? Even Zhang Xiaobao didn't consider this. He only needed to use his reputation to crush Feng Qiaozhenger. His plan was still in progress. Chapter 872. Amidst the anticipation and prayers of the people who were preparing for the spring plowing, the warm current from the Pacific Ocean finally broke through the layers of obstacles and toured most of the Great Tang. Jiangnan Eastern Circuit's Hangzhou Prefecture calls. The water level in Enchanting Lake has risen but is within control. Jiangnan Eastern Circuit's Suzhou Prefecture calls. The water level in Lake Tai has exceeded the warning line. Requesting for reinforcements. Jiangnan Western Circuit's Poyang Prefecture calls. The water level in Pingxin Lake has risen. The wind is strong and the waves are strong. Jiangnan Eastern Circuit's June Prefecture calls. A section of Zhoushan County, a tributary of the Han River, has broken its dam. The people in the county are being evacuated. The cause of the breach has been found to be due to the embezzlement of the county magistrate of Zhoushan County. 200,000 yuan for repairing the dam has been detained and has been sent to the capital. Jingji Prefecture's Ningzhou Prefecture calls. In a private room in Savant's restaurant, Li Longji was tasting the new dishes while listening to Gao Lisher's report. Since the invention of telegrams, the transmission of information was many times faster than before. It was very convenient. As long as something happened in the country, telegrams could be used to report and issue orders. Li Longji listened carefully. When he heard that the rivers and lakes were stable, he happily ate a boiled clam. This season was the best time for clams to grow meat but not shells. After spitting out the sand, the clams were fat, fresh, and tender. When he heard that there was a breach due to improper management or embezzlement, Li Longji put down his chopsticks with a gloomy expression. After Gao Lisher finished reporting some of the important situations, Li Longji pushed the plate of clams away and stopped eating. He sat there sulking. Deal with it strictly. Especially the embezzling officials. I want them to be alive to earn but not to spend it. How's the monitoring of the military equipment going? Your Majesty, all the weapon parts are wrapped in oil paper. There's no need to worry about getting wet. However, the old grain in some places may become moldy. I think it's going to be used to brew wine. There's good news. The construction of the train is almost complete. The tracks are being laid now. It's estimated that it can be tested in the capital in midsummer. Gao Lisher also hated corrupt officials very much. He remembered the emperor's order and mentioned something that made people happy. Good. I heard from Xiaobao that there's a train. As long as we're willing to spend money to build it, it'll only take half a month to travel from the capital to Luzhou. It can carry people and goods. Where are Xiaobao and the others? Li Longji imagined the big picture that Zhang Xiaobao had painted for him. Suddenly, he realized that there had been no news of Zhang Xiaobao in the last few days. At this time, Zhang Xiaobao should have been busy with the disasters in the Great Tang. There had been no news of him sending reinforcements from Zhoushan district. Your Majesty, last night, Xiaobao called and said that he would be staying in Sanshui County for a few days. He said that he had a seed that he wanted to personally guide the locals in their cultivation. Also, Mo Jilian and the others will not immediately enter the capital. The 200,000-some Turkic people have already been sent to various places. Some are still on the way while others have already arrived. Gao Lisher hurriedly replied, meaning that Zhang Xiaobao was very busy and had no time to deal with the disaster relief. Li Longji muttered to himself for a moment before nodding. In the past, Xiaobao and the others had a convenient information network, so he was always in charge of disaster relief. Now that we have a telegram, we naturally shouldn't let him continue to be in charge. It just so happens that there are a lot of idle officials in some places, so let them form a temporary disaster relief department. If there are any more disasters, let them handle it. They can't just take my money and not work for me. Zhang Xiaobao, who Li Longji was thinking about, was currently enjoying life in Zhangjia Zhuangzi. Regardless of whether the weather was still cold or not, he set up a shed by the roadside and sat down to enjoy the scenery. From time to time, he would say a few words to Mo Jilian, who was accompanying him. He would introduce how Zhangjia Zhuangzi was and how Sanshui County was. Back then, the sky was so blue, the clouds were so white. Back then, Mo Jilian yawned and occasionally agreed. These days, he was dragged around by Zhang Xiaobao all day, climbing mountains, diving into the water, and wading through muddy ditches. He was even more tired than when he was on the grassland. As he grew older, he did not recover as quickly as Zhang Xiaobao, so he really did not have the energy to listen to Zhang Xiaobao's nonsense. Wang Wan was not far away. She wore 2 more layers of clothes and was embroidering. It took her a while to sew a needle. No one knew what she was thinking about. Xiao Hai finally stopped studying his mathematics and followed Xiao Zhu to look at the scenery. Sometimes, they would run to the front of a certain house and listen to the old man sitting at the door tell stories of the past. Xiao Ai, on the other hand, dragged Xiao Yuan around. She realized that the farmers in her hometown were really rich. Every house had 2 stories, and they were all made of good wood. From the looks of it, if it were not for the sake of maintaining the same style, every house would have been built with 5 stories. Small bridges over flowing water, winding corridors, lush green grass, and leisurely windmills. To be able to live in such an environment around the flagship store between the clouds and the water, in Xiao Bei's opinion, was true wealth. The most direct way to make her feel that wealth was reflected in the tradition that Zhuangzi had always maintained. In every small pavilion along the corridor, there were prepared cooking utensils. No matter how the seasons changed, if one wanted to eat, one did not have to go into the house. There was a dedicated person in charge of watching the charcoal burning area. Once there, one could take out the red charcoal fire and find a pavilion to eat. The last time she came, she was still young and could not do it herself. Now that she felt that she was older and could do a lot of things, she brought a few members of the children's regiment to get charcoal and began to eat. Sometimes, they would run to one pavilion to cook. Sometimes they would go to another pavilion to see if the food was ready. Fortunately, the members of the children's regiment were children from Zhuangzi. Otherwise, if Xiao Bei ran around like this, she would definitely get lost. This is for you. Xiao Bei did not eat much and only wanted to cook. In the end, she found that she had cooked too much and could not bear to throw it away. She put it on a plate and gave it to the Turks one by one. Fortunately, Xiao Bei did not like to eat meat and only cooked vegetables. They would not get old after a long time and could be eaten. In addition, the Turks were also tired of eating meat. Since Xiao Bei gave it to them, they ate it and did not waste it. At the same time, they were full of interest in this maze-like Zhuangzi. Keitachin, the left virtuous prince who was in charge of the army, ate a plate of tofu skin one after another. He yearned for the winding corridors in Zhuangzi, especially when he heard that this Zhuangzi could provide food at any time regardless of whether it was cold or summer. He compared it to his own tribe and was very envious. As he ate and looked, he habitually regarded this place as a place to attack. The scenery in his eyes gradually turned into a place to attack and defend. He began to think about where to enter when he attacked and how to defend against the defenders. He did not know if he did not think about it, but when he thought about it, he was shocked. He found that no matter which direction he attacked from in Zhuangzi, he would have to face a fan-shaped defensive fortification. The small buildings that looked scattered actually took care of all angles. From the outside, it looked like it was all buildings and fields, but the area surrounded by the small buildings could be used to mobilize manpower and supplies at any time. The platforms used for people to play between the clouds and the water to stand at a high place to watch the scenery were clearly arrow towers. Here, try this. Xiao Bei carried another plate of food and put it in front of Keitachin. Keitachin was stunned when he saw the food. It was too big, so he looked at Xiao Bei in confusion. Xiao Bei quickly introduced. It's a big skewer. The outermost layer is dried tofu, the middle layer is cabbage, and the innermost layer is eggplant. I rolled it myself. I washed my hands. Who doesn't wash their hands after eating like you? It's not cooked yet, right? Keitachin did not want to refuse Xiao Bei's enthusiasm, but when he saw that the cabbage was still straight, he could not help but feel puzzled, so he asked. This thing can be eaten raw. If it's rolled too big, the outer layer of dried tofu will break. It's not like you haven't eaten raw before. Beef and mutton, don't you all eat raw? If you don't want to eat it, I'll eat it myself. Xiao Bei looked like he was treating the thing he rolled as a treasure and reasoned with Keitachin. Keitachin hesitated and felt that he should not have an upset stomach after eating it. He gritted his teeth and took the plate to eat. He was really afraid that Xiao Bei would eat it himself. If he had an upset stomach, Zhang Xiaobao would torture him. While eating, Keitachin continued to look at the arrangement of zhuangzi. Xiao Bei was very happy when he saw that Keitachin had eaten. He asked curiously, "What are you looking at?" "I'm looking at whether your family can defend zhuangzi if it's attacked," Keitachin said vaguely as he ate. Xiao Bei understood. He narrowed his eyes and shook his head. Brother and sister said that unless we use the Tang Empire's cannons to attack from a distance, we will kill as many people as they come. Once someone comes close, they will face a three-dimensional crossfire attack. The people lying in ambush at the various firing points can shoot out the firepower of a machine gun with a single shot. If too many people come, they will set up cannons. There are no blind spots in zhuangzi. There are also two kinds of tactics. One is mine warfare and the other is, why do I have to tell you everything? Do you want to attack our family's zhuangzi? I'll tell my brother. As Xiao Bei spoke, he suddenly realized something and turned around to look for his brother. Keitachin hurriedly reached out and gently pulled Xiao Bei back. He ate the rest of the food on the plate as fast as he could and said, "It's so delicious." "Is there more?" "Is it delicious?" "Yes, it's this cabbage and eggplant rolled with dried tofu."
I'll make it for you now.
"Wait for me." Xiao Bei seemed to have forgotten that he wanted to look for his brother. He turned around and went back to work. Xiao Yuan followed behind and reminded him, "Aren't you going to tell your brother?" "What should I say? That he wants to attack our family's zhuangzi?" "Where is he?" Xiao Bei asked. "Then just now I saw that there were too many cabbages and couldn't finish them. You don't like them, so I gave them to him. Actually, I know that he doesn't like them either. If I didn't say that I was going to look for my brother, would he stop me? How stupid." Xiao Bei spread out a piece of cabbage and placed the eggplant in it. He even stuffed the cabbage foam into it and rolled it slowly. Xiao Yuan opened his mouth and looked at Xiao Bei carefully, as if he had just met him.
What are you looking at? Come and help me.
Today's cabbages have to be eaten. Otherwise, they will wilt overnight. Even pigs don't like to eat them. Xiao Bei urged in a dissatisfied tone. Zhang Xiaobao didn't know that his sister was scheming against him. He continued to talk to Mog, who wanted to sleep. "After you are appointed as an official in the capital, I will arrange a place for you. You will be responsible for planting pasture. It's easier than planting rice. You will feed the horses. If there are any leftovers, you will feed the sheep. You can't let the sheep eat it directly. It will dig the roots. You can choose a place yourself. Don't be too far away from the capital." "Okay." Emoji nodded his head slowly. In order to have a good rest and divert Zhang Xiaobao's attention, he asked, "Is the garlic problem solved?" Chapter 873. The heavy rain relieved the worries of the spring plowing people, but it also made the road more difficult to walk. The road in Henan province was also very muddy. Only the rich villages would build a few concrete paths for people to walk on. As for the mainland, it was still paved with sand. It was not that they couldn't afford it, but they couldn't afford to waste the livestock. Walking on the cement road, the number of times the wheels broke down was reduced, but the livestock's hooves were very worn out. If they hit their paws, it would cause a lot of damage to the road. Before bicycles were popularized and cars were invented, they could only use the dirt road. The merchants who bought the garlic estimated the distance and the road situation and felt that the profit had decreased. They also found that the ships on the water were busy transporting the normal goods of the season, so the enthusiasm in their hearts faded. The price of garlic in Hunan province remained 3 times the normal price. Because of the hype in the surrounding areas, the price had not decreased much.
It was still about 2 times the normal price.
This price was still controlled by people. Otherwise, most of the restaurants and people would try the new dish between the clouds and the water. No one would buy garlic at all. Wind Logistics, which was in charge of Windy Bridge Shoji, was still buying garlic. The compensation had increased to 5 times the normal price, but the compensation period was extended. The local merchants didn't send them garlic, but Huainan province sent them a lot. They directly used the deposit they had just received. Windy Bridge Shoji, who should have been happy, was now worried. He didn't go to between the clouds and the water near the Luo River to eat the expensive dishes. He went to a restaurant near the Yellow River and ordered 2 cold dishes. He warmed a pot of wine and looked at the rain outside in a daze. Yamamoto weren't very busy recently. They had just finished buying a batch of garlic, and the deposit was gone. They wanted to use the silver and sulfur as collateral, but the price was very low. Yamamoto couldn't do anything. Even if he gave a big gift, the other party wouldn't give in. How much garlic have you bought? Windy Bridge Shoji's eyes were still looking outside. He asked casually.
About 1.
4 million caddies. The current price is 27 copper coins per caddy. The price in the capital is 21 copper coins. According to the compensation ratio, we need to pay 50,000 strings of coins. Including the bribes, it's 63,000 strings of coins. That's all we have. There are still 720,000 strings of silver and sulfur left. The part that is successfully mortgaged still has 9,000 strings of coins. Shanji was very familiar with this data and told Fengqiao Shoji about it. Windy Bridge Shoji did some calculations and realized that not only did they not make any profit from the garlic, but they were also losing money. He frowned and said, "No, this price is not good. We need to raise the price to more than 50 coins before we can make any profit. Why is there so little money left? Even if 1/3 of it is mortgaged, it should be nearly 100,000 strings of coins. Just now, it only added up to 72,000 strings of coins. Lord Windbridge, we borrowed from a loan shark. They said that they would give us 100,000 strings of cash, but in fact, they only gave us 90,000 strings of cash. When we return the loan, we will have to return 130,000 strings of cash. That's the principal amount. Besides, there's also the cumulative interest. We can't stand the cumulative interest, so we have to return the interest first. There's also the cost of transporting the garlic and renting the warehouse." Yamamoto explained. Fengqiao Shoji's frown deepened. Since it's 90% and 13% return, why is there still a rolling interest? That's how it was set in the beginning. Fortunately, we rented a warehouse. Otherwise, we would all be drenched, Yamamoto replied. No, we have to make the price of garlic rise. Is there any other way to get money? Damned rainy days. Windy Bridge Shoji began to complain about the weather. There is. Rumor has it that the Great Tang Bank wants to limit the use of silver as collateral, but for some reason, it hasn't been implemented. It's just that the price has been lowered. It's said that there has been too much silver recently, and the market has adjusted automatically. It should be because the loan sharks sent the silver to the bank as collateral to get more money. I think that a few days ago, someone wanted to use the bank to restrict us, but later found that it was not good to do so, so they didn't implement it. It's just a rumor. I think that Zhang Xiaobao must have given the order to not allow the bank to directly participate in non-pure financial activities. Yamamoto was in charge of this matter, so he was very familiar with this matter. Windy Bridge Shoji laughed contemptuously. Zhang Xiaobao is a fool. If I were him, I would use all the resources I could to restrict my opponent, even the administrative aspects. He actually didn't allow it. Yamamoto was unhappy. If he said that Zhang Xiaobao was a fool, then wouldn't he be even more foolish after losing several times? He continued Windy Bridge Shoji's words. Zhang Xiaobao is not a fool. He just doesn't want to do that. In the book he wrote, the part that was leaked is not important. It mentioned that unless there is no other way, One should use administrative orders to solve the economic crisis. Otherwise, it will lead to confusion in the government and increase the dependence of the government on administrative orders. It will unknowingly cause the government to be unable to distinguish between business and government, and it will cause the officials to be too involved in economic matters. It will cause the officials to privately use their power to obtain business benefits that they shouldn't have. Then, why does his family do such a big business? He is the Bohai provincial governor. Look at the northern part of Hebei province. How many businesses does his family have? Windy Bridge Shoji snorted. Yamamoto was speechless. Yamamoto was at a loss for words. After thinking for a while, he said, "Perhaps he'll give it up in the future? It's useless to talk about it. The main thing is that he must be involved in the garlic business now. We have to be careful and not be careless. Otherwise, even the bones will be eaten by him. I don't care if he's involved or not. We have to make the price of garlic rise. Mortgage all the remaining silver to the Great Tang Bank and order our people to buy garlic at a higher price. There are still 2 months until the new garlic arrives. During this time, the price of garlic will definitely rise to 50 coins per catty." Windy Bridge Shoji couldn't count on others, so he could only take the risk and buy it himself. He hoped that the Great Tang's imperial court would not consider garlic as a necessity and accuse them of hoarding. Yamamoto couldn't think of a better idea. Seeing that Windy Bridge Shoji insisted, they gritted their teeth and agreed. Yamamoto transported about 600,000 strings of silver to the Great Tang Bank in Luoyang. According to the ratio of 3-to-1, they exchanged for more than 200,000 strings of silver and distributed it to the Japanese people all over the country. They started to buy the garlic. As soon as he started, before Zhang Xiaobao gave the order, Fong Lu reacted first. She sent out telegrams one after another, ordering all the industries that belonged to Xian Air to transfer the funds. She couldn't wait for this day to come. Because the money had to be sent to the Japanese people all over the country, they couldn't send it to those that were too far away. The distance to buy the garlic was limited to within half a month. The news quickly spread to Zhang Xiaobao. Mo Jilian was also very interested in this matter. He specifically looked for Zhang Xiaobao and asked, "Zhang Xiaobao, someone is making a move. Aren't you going to do anything? If they don't buy the garlic personally, I will. Since they have come to this step, they don't need me anymore. I'll send the garlic from Huainan province to lead the way. The others will take care of the rest. It saves a lot of trouble," Zhang Xiaobao said with a smile. He didn't expect that Windy Bridge Shoji would dare to make such a risky move and was finally forced to this step. After all, the people of Wind Logistics didn't consider the weather. Mo Jilian didn't understand why Zhang Xiaobao didn't do anything. He was even more curious and asked, "Then you'll just watch them do it? You'll know when the time comes. The Tang Empire is no longer the Tang Empire of the past. Why use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken? Let's not have lunch in Zhuangzi today. I'll go to the school to take a look. The rain is heavy these few days. I'll see if the school has taken the school into consideration." Zhang Xiaobao looked at the cattle in the field and said to Mo Jilian, "What should we eat today?" Mo Jilian didn't understand.
Stew.
Add more ginger slices. It's best if it's beef stewed with radish. I've tasted it before. It's bitter. You didn't peel the radish when you stewed it. Of course it's bitter. Huh? Peel it? Just as Zhang Xiaobao said, there was no need for him to do anything. Windy Bridge Shoji's fate was already decided. Just as Fong Lu used Xian Air's property to attack, the other businessmen followed suit. Luoyang City, Thunder Logistics Group. The owner, Li Chengfong, ranked 16th on the list of billionaires, immediately called for an emergency meeting as soon as he received the news from Wind Logistics. Then, a transportation team of nearly 30,000 people started to move around Henan. Suzhou Prefecture, splendid grocery. The owner, Ge Yunfei, ranked 24th on the list of billionaires, took out 600,000 yuan at the last minute and used it regardless of success or failure. Jianan Prefecture, Izhou Prefecture, Wanlu Trading. The owner, Dong Long, ranked 71st on the list of billionaires, received a telegram from Kaifeng's office. He was authorized to use Wanlu Trading shares as collateral and get 800,000 yuan from Kaifeng's Tang Bank as proof. He was to transfer the money to Shouchun branch to buy garlic on the spot and send it to Luoyang by water. Jiangnan West Prefecture, Yuezhou Lake, Dongting Fishery. The owner, Yang Yang, ranked 19th on the list of billionaires, immediately ordered the fleet that transported fish and prawns to the capital to quickly move out and clean the ships. Along the way, he looked for merchants who wanted to transport garlic and waited in Luoyang for other things to come back. Hudong Prefecture, Fen Prefecture, Shannon Prefecture, Guanyi Prefecture. In this way, one by one, people in the prefecture took action. It was as if they had a tacit understanding. Those who took action were all in the top 100 of the list of billionaires. Fengqiao Shouji would never have thought that his decision to buy garlic in person because he was worried that it would spoil due to the humidity and make it difficult to travel would attract so many people to attack him. It was not because of how much money he had. Including the garlic in his hand, he only had 300,000 strings of cash. Anyone in the top 100 of the list of billionaires would have more money than him. Many businessmen in Tang looked down on his methods. If someone in the top 100 of the list of billionaires wanted to do this, it would create a bigger wave than Fengqiao Shouji. However, they did not dare to do it. They were afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would take action. Another reason was that they had a tacit understanding. They did not want to mess up the economic environment of Tang. Originally, there were already people who wanted to take action against Wind Logistics. However, they did not know how to disrupt the logistics compensation plan. At the same time, they were also worried that they would disturb Zhang Xiaobao. Therefore, they were waiting. Now, they finally saw the opportunity and learned a lot from it. It turned out that the simplest way was to change the eating habits of the people in a short time. Then, they would pay off all the deposits and wait for the rain to come. The rest was to force Wind Logistics to buy the garlic personally. There was no need for Zhang Xiaobao to teach them. The businessmen all knew how to deal with it. That was to raise the price of the garlic and increase the cost when Wind Logistics bought the garlic. At the same time, they would sell the garlic to Wind Logistics at a higher price. If Wind Logistics did not buy the garlic, they would sell the garlic at a lower price. Wind Logistics could not afford to do that. They could only take out money to buy the garlic. If they did not buy the garlic now, they would wait for the new garlic to be sold. Then, these people would raise the price of the new garlic. If they bought the garlic now, the price would not go up. Even if they bought the garlic in the end, they would have to pay for it. If they did not take money, they would have to buy the garlic. However, not many of the previous garlic would be preserved by then. If they wanted to minimize losses, they had to sell the garlic before it went bad, and the price was still high. If they sold the garlic at a high price now, they would lower the price so that the garlic in their hands could not be sold at a high price. When the price was low, they would be a foodie. When the time came, most of the garlic would have gone bad, and the new garlic would be sold at a high price. Windy Bridge Shoji was dumbfounded by the method of using money. He knew that if he insisted, the other party would also pay for it. However, there were so many people. If each of them paid a little, he would lose everything. He could not do that. Windy Bridge Shoji knew that this was a conflict of interest. He was so scared that he did not dare to buy the garlic anymore. He was thinking about how to preserve the garlic he bought for as long as possible. However, he found that he did not have a good idea. If the quantity was small, he could do something. The problem was that there were too many of them. If he wanted to preserve them for a long time, he would need other things to increase the cost. They are really bullying me. They just want to compare their losses with me because they see that I have to pay a few times more. I hope they will stop and let me get back my money. I will think of a way to sell the garlic in the future. At this time, even the gods will not be able to save the situation. Windy Bridge Shoji said to Yamamoto and Yamamoto, who were also worried. It seemed that he was looking for an excuse for his failure. After all, the other party was too strong. If it were other people, they might agree with him, but Yamamoto and Yamamoto definitely did not. Yamamoto sighed and said, Zhang Xiaobao not only calculated our capital, but also the changes in the weather and other people's thoughts. This time, he did not continue to do it himself. Windy Bridge Kuan, hurry up and sell the garlic. We will accept the loss and collect as much money as we can. Let's first get 3 times the value of the garlic. So, what if he continues to do it? Isn't it the same as now? Windy Bridge Shoji was not convinced.
Like now?
Windy Bridge Kuan, you are dreaming. If Zhang Xiaobao continues to do it, we will have to pay. He will not bet with us like other merchants. You have not fought with him personally, so you don't know how powerful he is. Seeing that Windy Bridge Shoji was not going to admit defeat, Yamamoto glared at him and scolded him. Yamamoto also nodded and said, "That's right. Zhang Xiaobao can't be judged by common sense. Not to mention other things, even if he was in our position, he would be able to turn the tide. With the same capital and the same capital, he will not lose. He definitely has a way to make money in this situation. Otherwise, why do you think the merchants of Tang are so honest? When they do business, they follow the rules. All the merchants of Tang follow Zhang Xiaobao's code of conduct. If the price is high, they will lower it. If the price is low, they will raise it. They are afraid of Zhang Xiaobao. They know the consequences of Zhang Xiaobao's anger. Even if they work together, they will not be able to defeat him. I don't believe it. I don't believe that Zhang Xiaobao is so powerful. Windy Bridge, Shoji shouted. Yamamoto shook his head and sighed. Sigh. There were many people who didn't believe it back then. That person from Tubo was able to enter the top 10 of the list, and he even hid his strength. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were fighting outside, he made a move and thought that he could injure Jiannan. What was the result? A letter sent to Zhang Xiaobao allowed Zhang Xiaobao to discover the problem. Then he controlled that person from 1,000 miles away. Not only did that person lose all his capital, but Zhang Xiaobao also took the opportunity to destroy that person. That's right. Yamamoto continued. After that, Yamamoto and I didn't believe it. We came up with a plan to sell silver and rice. In the end, we lost. We couldn't accept it and plotted to enter his research site. We came up with the ginseng formula and bought a lot of cement. After that, all the money was lost. The people from Xinlua didn't believe it and insisted on going to Chongning to cheat Li Sun's brother, Li Yu. Li Yu went to Xinsai to borrow money from his brother and met Zhang Xiaobao. When he returned, the people from Xinlua lost all their money. Now they are still trapped and working for him for free. Later, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan went to Jili province. However, they didn't believe it and traded with Zhang Xiaobao. They also formed a military alliance with him. In the end, the entire tribe was lost. Later on, the two of them wanted to build a mud river. The Xinlua clan was dissatisfied and arranged for Li Dong to find someone to cause trouble. Now, the mud river was paid by Li Dong and the others. They still can't get back the 1 million strings of coins. You are not the first person to be dissatisfied, and you won't be the last. However, the outcome is the same. Whether you believe it or not, you will definitely lose to Zhang Xiaobao. Then what do you think Zhang Xiaobao would do if he were in our position? Fengqiao Shoji couldn't refute, so he could only ask for advice. Yamamoto and Yamamoto shook their heads at the same time. I don't know.
We are not Zhang Xiaobao.
While the three of them were thinking about this matter, others were also thinking about it. However, others were more relaxed than them. Between the clouds and the water by the Luoshui River, in a private room on the 5th floor, there was a rustling sound. Then it stopped, and then the sound was much quieter. East wind. That's great. Touch, 2. I'll eat. Stop, I'll touch 1 chicken. I'll eat white. 5. I'll eat. Stop, I'll touch red. Are you guys together to lie to me? It's been 2 rounds and I haven't played a single card. Do you think I'm easy to bully because I'm the furthest away from the table? The person who didn't eat after shouting twice couldn't take it anymore. No, I'm just in time. I won't touch anymore. I'll let you eat. That person hurriedly persuaded. After a round, the person who didn't eat twice said, 30,000.
Eat.
I can't eat 30,000. Is there anyone else who wants to touch? No one said anything. Then I'll play Nanfeng. Cheater, oh my, someone's already cheater. I got 3 copper coins just like that. I'm not playing anymore, the person who didn't play twice said angrily. He finally played a card with great difficulty, but he was cheated again.
Don't.
Didn't I let you eat it? I didn't touch it. Look, I have 230,000 in my hand. You have a bad idea. Isn't it just 3 copper coins? Do you have to be like this? The person hurriedly tried to persuade. It's not a matter of money. You guys are ganging up to bully me. It's just like how we bullied Feng Qiao Shoji. I can see it now. Can anyone win by bullying like this? Why not? It depends on who it is. If it's Zhang Xiaobao, he won't be afraid of us even if we work together. I guarantee that he'll be able to solve it, the person said to the person next to him. Why wouldn't I believe you? This time, we're the ones who joined forces to attack Win Logistics. Even if we win, if he fights to the death, we'll have to pay for it as well. If we let the people who sent him win, it won't be a glorious win. If it weren't for the orders from the headquarters, I really wouldn't want to get involved in this mess. Let's play cards. If you hit me, you can raise your cards and play. I'll definitely hit you back. Let me say this first. If we don't have a card in the end, the yellow banker will play the yellow banker. I've never seen such a shameless person like you. Fine, I'll win back your cheater money even if I have to. Jiu Bing, if you ask me, this isn't a matter of getting involved in this mess. This time, we'll let other scheming people understand that Tang's money isn't that easy to cheat. Didn't you see who made the move this time? Fong Lu made the first move, and Zhang Xiaobao didn't say anything. That means that he's tacitly agreed to let us do it. Don't move. I'll fight back even if it's just one. North, I won't regret it. I'll remember you. 2 cheaters. The opponent is dreaming.
Draw the cards.
No, I was just thinking about it. 9 cheaters. I'm thinking Zhang Xiaobao didn't make a move because he knows that he'll be fighting with Win Logistics. He probably wants us to make a move. Don't want 9.
8.
If you ask me, bam, 9. You made it? You made 2 9 in a row. Now it's my turn, right? Fine, you're good. 2 rounds, you cheated me twice. Another round. Are you going to cheat again? How would I know that he has 2 8? If you ask me, Zhang Xiaobao definitely won't let us pay. If you don't believe me, just watch. His methods are unpredictable. 2 cheaters. Bam. I didn't use 2 cheaters this time. I didn't mean to give you a buy again. I definitely won't play again next time. You don't have many cards in your hand. Why bother? Opponent, it's your turn. Can you play a 9? Me? Fine, I'll play. Oh, sorry, I won. Thank you everyone. You 3 play by yourselves. I'm going to watch them play Pai Gao. I can't afford to be angry. You paid for 2 cheaters. I owe you. Chapter 874. A telegram of more than a dozen words gave the businessmen who participated in the attack of Win Logistics a sense of confidence. Zhang Xiaobao's reputation was like a golden signboard in the eyes of Tang's businessmen. Compared with Tang's official recognition of Zhang Xiaobao's means of governing, Tang's businessmen valued Zhang Xiaobao's ability to make money more. Tang's businessmen had developed a habit. Whenever Zhang Xiaobao sent someone to discuss a cooperation, they didn't need to consider the proposal, nor did they need to spend time to evaluate it. They just needed to agree, take out money or manpower, and do as they were told. They would definitely make money. Here, don't pester me again. I'll give you 6 copper coins with 2 bars. I'll give you 1 copper coin, and you can take it yourself. I won't play with you in the future. I didn't expect Zhang Xiaobao to really have a way to make money. If he was in the situation of Win Logistics, I don't know what he would do. The man who lost money in mahjong couldn't stand being chased by others, so he took out a 20 copper coin note and exchanged it with the man. He asked the man to pay back the debt with 7 copper coins and gave up the rest of the 13 copper coins. He would rather spend more than let the other 2 take advantage of him. He admired Zhang Xiaobao a lot and wanted to see what Zhang Xiaobao could do to make money for them. He wanted to create another classic in the battle of Monopoly. The man who got the 6 copper coins was not in the mood to ask for gambling money. He threw the money to the man and said to the man who lost money, I don't expect to be better than Zhang Xiaobao. I put my hope on my grandson. When my grandson is born, I will train him well and make a lot of money in the future. If he has half of Zhang Xiaobao's ability, no one will dare to touch his family's business easily in the future. Later on, I'll also learn from my boss and carve a little figure of Zhang Xiaobao. I'll give it to him every day. Let's go. Let's see what tricks Win Logistics will play tomorrow. We'll accept all of them. They dare to play tricks in our great Tang. If we don't torture them to death, how can a small country like Japan dare to offend us? I'm leaving too. Here's 1 copper coin. Waiter, buy me a big vegetable steamed bun. I'm hungry. I still need to find by Xian Air to buy some children's clothes and bring them back. The person who had just received 1 copper coin gave the money to the waiter and walked out while muttering. The waiter respectfully took the money, turned around and took a big vegetable bun. He caught up with the man and said, "The restaurant will give you a bun.
Take care."
Oh, here's a tip for you. The man took the steamed bun and ate it as he walked. Thank you, sir. The waiter still respectfully thanked him. In fact, 1 copper coin was not enough to buy a steamed bun. If it were a waiter from a small restaurant, he would have curled his lips. However, as a waiter from the restaurant between the clouds and the water, he absolutely could not do that. People who could eat at this kind of place were of extraordinary status. 1 copper coin could not be any lower, but it represented the intimacy of the other party. He knew in his heart that it was just a joke. In the capital, Li Longji had just finished his morning court session. There were many things to discuss today. Although it was called morning court session, it actually lasted until 6 in the afternoon, which was close to 12:30 in the afternoon. The wind was not strong outside. Li Longji directly asked the imperial kitchen to send food to the officials. He himself did not leave and was still thinking about the topics that had just finished. Today's matters included the follow-up of the Turkic people's resettlement, the differences in the climate of spring plowing in various places, the supply of medicine to the soldiers sent to Tubo, the construction of the new canal, the laying of the railway to provide the foundation for the passage of trains, and a series of other related issues. As for the distribution of goods, it was not a problem at all. Li Longji did not have the time to think about it, and the officials also did not want to put their thoughts on it. With Zhang Xiaobao around, there was no need to worry about unreasonable changes in the price of goods in a certain place. In fact, even without Zhang Xiaobao making a move, the top players in the Monopoly game would make a move first. While making money, they would also stabilize the price of goods at the same time. Li Shi, we have realized that the merchants of Great Tang are very patriotic, especially those who have joined the Monopoly game. As soon as a loophole appeared in the Win Logistics, they immediately went to deal with it. Oh, it's called sniping. Normally, they would not cause any trouble. We are very relieved. While waiting for Gao Lishir to make food for him, Li Longji said with a gratified expression. Gao Lishir was rolling the dried tofu by the side. The dried tofu was half a chi long and wide. After spreading it out, he first applied a layer of chili sauce, sprinkled some cooked meat on top, and then sprinkled a layer of chopped green onions before rolling it up bit by bit. Li Longji would eat this for lunch. It was unknown whether it was because it was simple and fast to make and could save some money for the palace, or because he was addicted to the chili sauce, but recently, Li Longji had been eating this every day. There was also a large cup of cold water on the side, so that he could drink it when it was spicy. Gao Lishir finished making a dried tofu roll and handed it to Li Longji, saying, "With your majesty here, merchants are naturally patriotic. Your majesty, Xiao Bao said that it is not good to eat too much chili. Should we change the dish for dinner?" After a while, Xiao Bao's tomatoes in the northern part of Hebei province will be ready. You can try them. Li Longji did not pay attention to Gao Lishir's words and took a big bite. He chewed and swallowed with satisfaction, then took a deep breath and picked up the cup to drink 2 mouthfuls. His entire body became spirited and said, "It is not my fault. Back then, when Xiao Bao's family created the Monopoly game, we thought that it was just a toy. Who could have expected that not only would it be used as a game for children to play, it would actually develop into an organization that involved economic theory? I know very well that Monopoly is no longer a game for merchants. Any one of the top-ranked merchants is even better than Feng Qiao Shouji. If it weren't for Xiao Bao, they would have been in a mess long ago. Don't worry, Feng Qiao Shouji. Don't worry, Feng Qiao Shouji. Although they wouldn't be as ruthless as Feng Qiao Zhinger, fearing that we would kill them. They would still cause the price of a certain area to fluctuate incessantly, thereby benefiting from it. We are waiting for those people nurtured by Xiao Bao to grow up quickly. At that time, we will establish a new department according to Xiao Bao's plan to adjust and limit the economic situation of our great Tang. This subject estimates that it will be soon. Gao Lisher rolled up another tomato and handed it over. These 100 people have been studying for 5 years. Not only did Xiao Bao teach them, but Cuckoo also taught them. I didn't expect Cuckoo to be so proficient in politics and economics as well. It seems to be different from Xiao Bao's and is a completely different theoretical system. Xiao Bao mostly teaches about speculation and response, as well as consumer psychology and financial integration. Oh, it's called zero-sum. Cuckoo mostly teaches about control and policy, which is closer to the administrative system. This is strange. The two of them are actually learning different things. Xiao Bao's knowledge is more aggressive. Although he has always been maintaining stability in the Great Tang to other countries, his knowledge is a sharp spearhead. Cuckoo can be compared to a shield. Li Longji thought about it and felt that this was indeed the case. Wang Wan also had a lot of insights on economics. She often wrote letters to the 100 people to explain, but mostly relied on the administrative system. Zhang Xiaobao, on the other hand, was like a heavenly steed soaring across the skies. Most of what he taught was to look for opportunities and artificially create loopholes in the economy. Then he would set up a trap and attack. It was just like marching an army to war. If he really completed the first few steps, the final moment of the attack would be like a fiery invasion that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Yes, this might be the goal of these two experts. One is attacking and one is defending, one is anxious and one is stable. This emperor has seen cases of the two of them fighting. Cuckoo likes to use administrative orders to mobilize the country's resources. Even when she counterattacks, she prioritizes stability and stands firm like a mountain. Xiao Bao is like the wind and fire, devising traps one after another. Once he counterattacks, he will not rest until he is dead. As Li Longji spoke, his eyes occasionally glanced at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong might have been prepared. He had ordered mutton steamed buns for lunch. In fact, he didn't like mutton steamed buns. He liked to eat stuffing such as wontons, dumplings, and pies. Today, when Li Longji let him choose, he chose the steamed buns. At this time, he was eating with his head lowered. He used a spoon to scoop up some dry tofu and immediately buried his face in the bowl to drink the soup. He didn't even look at Li Longji. Every time Li Longji looked over, he would be drinking the soup. In his heart, he knew that there wasn't any expert in the family. There was only his son and daughter-in-law, these two little immortals. He was worried that he would give himself away when Li Longji asked. Li Longji wasn't stupid. After discovering this situation, he had a eunuch deliver the tofu that Gao Lisher had just finished rolling to Zhang Zhong. He said, "Minister Zhang Zhong, try the tofu roll." "Yes, yes. This subject thanks your Imperial Majesty." Zhang Zhong swallowed the food in his mouth. He solemnly took the tofu roll and put it in his mouth. With his mouth stuffed, he naturally couldn't speak. Li Longji wasn't in a hurry and ate with him. Zhang Zhong couldn't eat the tofu roll for an entire day. Zhang Zhong found the problem. After thinking for a while, he made up his mind and quickly finished the tofu roll. He let out a long breath and said, "The tofu roll that your Imperial Majesty gave me is really delicious. Don't lie in front of me. Who doesn't know that your son Zhang Xiaobao has good things for his family first? I don't believe that what you eat at home is worse than what I eat in the Imperial kitchen." Li Longji didn't buy Zhang Zhong's words. "Yes, yes. Your Imperial Majesty is wise." Zhang Zhong nodded vigorously. "Minister Zhang, how are the people at home?" Li Longji asked. "Thanks to your Imperial Majesty's auspicious words, they are doing well," Zhang Zhong said. "How are the servants at home?" "They are all doing well. With your Imperial Majesty's care, they naturally won't be bad." I noticed that the servants at Minister Zhang's home are all extraordinary. They seem to be taught by a capable person. There are a few people in my palace who often make mistakes. I wonder if I can send them to Minister Zhang's home to learn from them? Ah, Send them to this subject's home?
All right.
Actually, why don't you send them to Xiao Bao's home? The servants at home were taught by Xiao Bao and Cuckoo back then. Then forget it. Xiao Bao and Cuckoo are busy. I won't disturb them, Li Longji said regretfully. He felt that the servants taught by the expert of the Zhang family shouldn't be bad. If there were other skills that he couldn't find a suitable person to teach, he could send a few more for the expert to choose from. If there really were suitable people, Great Tang would have a few more capable people. Seeing that Zhang Zhong didn't agree, he thought that it was the expert who asked Zhang Zhong to do so. He could only give up and wait for the expert to change his mind. Zhang Zhong didn't know what Li Longji was thinking. Seeing that the emperor didn't continue to ask, he continued to eat with a heavy heart. He ate very slowly and only finished when the others were almost done eating. He was afraid that if he ate too quickly, the emperor would ask him to send more people to his home. Li Longji didn't know that Zhang Zhong was thinking too much. Seeing that the officials had finished eating, he was about to dismiss them when he suddenly thought of something and looked at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong's eyes flickered. He wanted to avoid the gaze but felt that he shouldn't. It was very awkward. Li Longji coughed lightly and said, "We suddenly thought of something. Zhang Xiaobao, the scholar of the Bohai Sea, once ordered people to collect several crops from faraway lands. We believe that he will send some of the crops to the various regions of Great Tang. We are worried that the people will be used to the crops and won't cooperate. If there are people in your family who are farming or know people who are farming, we will take a portion of the seeds and send them to the world." Zhang Zhong heaved a sigh of relief. So it was about the seeds. He felt that it was a good idea for the emperor to help his son, but then he suddenly remembered that with the reputation of the two clans, there was no need for the emperor to ask others to farm. He was clearly worried that there wouldn't be enough seeds, so he asked for benefits from the officials first. "This official thanks your majesty on behalf of Xiao Bao," Zhang Zhong complained. Li Longji harumphed. Wei Wei nodded. Gao Lisher stood behind Li Longji. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was a bad idea. If the emperor asked for the seeds, wouldn't his godson be at a disadvantage? As long as it didn't affect the foundation of the country, he had to help. He then said to Zhang Zhong, "Minister Zhang, remember to ask Xiao Bao to lower the price when he sells the seeds. It is fate that we are officials of the same palace." "Yes, I will remember General Gao's words." Zhang Zhong felt that Gao Lisher was more pleasing to the eye for the first time. Li Longji looked at the officials with a regretful expression and waved his hand. "Disperse. Go back and do your work. When the carriage is ready, we will give you a carriage and ship allowance." Ever since Kei Tachin heard Xiao Bei mention the three-dimensional crossfire, he couldn't sleep well. He kept thinking about the strategy that Xiao Bei didn't mention. As a leader, it would be a pity if he couldn't understand the defense of a place. In order to study it, he brought a lot of advanced equipment, including a newly produced high-powered telescope, a very bright flashlight, and a set of climbing tools specially used by the seedling protection team. He also took a bamboo tube and used it as a receiver when he placed it on the ground. He also carried a folding military shovel. He began to wander around two zhuangzi that were joined together. To be precise, there were three. He counted Zhangjia's zhuangzi and Wang family's zhuangzi as one, and Gu family's zhuangzi as the other. Now that Gu family's zhuangzi cooperated with Zhang Yingxi and Wang family's zhuangzi to defend, Gu Yingxi earned a lot of money and bought 2 houses in the capital. He often stayed there, but he didn't stay there for long. He felt that Tuqiao village was safer than the capital. Kei Tachin didn't know. He was still investigating the defense system of Zhang Yingxi and Wang family's zhuangzi. He looked at the flowing water, the pavilions, and the farmlands and ponds. He had to understand everything. After wandering around for 2 days, all he saw was mist, and all he heard was the sound of ducks and dogs barking. It was a rural scene, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find what Xiao Bei said. If an enemy came, they would blow their heads off. Could it be that the little guy lied to me? If an enemy really came, zhuangzi wouldn't have any means of defense. That's strange. Kei Tachin leaned against a big tree that had just sprouted new leaves. He muttered to himself as he watched a flock of poultry pass by. As he watched, he realized something. No one let the flock of poultry go. The goose at the front would call out twice, and the chickens, ducks, and geese behind it would obediently follow. A gust of wind blew and scattered the flock of ducklings led by a duck. The ducklings were blown away, and as soon as the wind passed, they called out again and stood in line. They followed behind the flock and continued to move forward. It was very interesting. Hee hee, little guy, it's fun. If no one is looking after it, it will be caught and eaten by other criminals. Kei-Tachin started to worry about other people's poultry. At this time, a child's voice suddenly came from the tree. You can try to catch it. It will peck you to death. Our Zhuangzi's geese listen to Farong Rong. Farong Rong Rong teaches them to lead a group out for a stroll. When they see someone invading, they have to flock together. Kei-Tachin was shocked. He looked up and saw a 12 to 13-year-old child busily working on the tree. He said, "Oh, I see. What are you doing?" "I'm building a canopy for Little Swallow's family. It's snowing in winter, and it's crooked. I'll go to school later." The child on the tree replied, "Who is Little Swallow? Does she live on a tree?" Kei-Tachin felt that he had found the key to Zhangjia Zhuangzi's defense system. Little Swallow is Little Swallow. Do you know what swallows are? They fly away when it's cold and come back when it's hot. They like to make nests under the eaves. You're so stupid. How can you not know this? The child said with disdain. Kei-Tachin nodded. I know. They won't live on a tree even if you're there. You're so uncultured. It's so scary. It's written in the book that swallows make nests under the eaves because they're afraid that the mud nests will be wet by the rain. Can't they just make a canopy on a tree? There are too many swallows in Zhuangzi. Every family has one, and there's no place for them to live. We find a place for them on a tree. Last year, a family lived on this tree. I don't know if they can fly back this year. The mountain is high, and the road is long. The main house is better. There's a nest under the eaves. They don't move in winter. They make nests in the main house's hall. In winter, we feed them the raised insects and they eat them. The child looked very regretful. He nailed the canopy a few more times before he slipped down from the tree. He casually patted the dust and hopped towards the school. Kei-Tachin leaned back again and muttered, "There are swallows that don't fly to the south? Is the Zhang family really that powerful? Oh, I understand. They can make nests on a tree. The education system of the Tang Empire is really extraordinary. I hope that the children of my family will also understand it in the future." What are you muttering about? Move, you're blocking me. How can you figure out Zhuangzi's defense system? It's been 2 days and you've been blocking my way every day. Tell me, what can you do even if you know? Do you still want to attack? With the 500 people you left in Sanshui County? The sudden sound scared Kei-Tachin again. He leaned against the tree and looked around with a vigilant look. Just as he was leaning against the tree, he felt something poking at his back. He jumped forward and looked back. He saw a gun barrel sticking out from the tree he was leaning against. Oh my God! Kei-Tachin's soul almost flew out of his body. He immediately raised his hands in surrender. This is Zhuangzi's defense system. There are eyes watching you in all the places you can think of, and there may be places you can't think of. Also, you will hide behind the ladies' room at night, like a ghost. For the past 2 days, all the girls in the inner courtyard have gone to another toilet. They will think that you have ulterior motives. If you hide in the ladies' room again, someone will take care of you. Kei-Tachin returned to the courtyard with a pale face. He was very depressed. He thought that no one would know when he came out at night. Who knew that everyone saw him? Zhangjia Zhuangzi's defense system was indeed extraordinary. After crossing the courtyard, he was shocked again. He had received too many shocks today. He saw Xiaobei and the other 9 people in the courtyard, sitting or standing. In front of them was a big tiger and a big rabbit. The tiger was chasing the rabbit. Xiaobei anxiously shouted, "Bad tiger, you lost." The first line of walking reeds in Daya is to walk the reeds on the other side and not to trample on the cattle and sheep. Square bracts and square bodies. Way mud. Roar. The big tiger roared and ran away, unwilling to admit defeat. The big rabbit, which was safe, jumped in front of Xiaobei and kissed him hard. Xiaobei smiled happily.
Continue.
The rabbit of the Moon Palace escaped the tiger demon's pursuit and even obtained a precious hurricane boots. Its running speed is very fast. If it meets the tiger demon again, the tiger demon won't be able to catch up. It's a pity that when we were blocked by the bear demon at Songyan Mountain, the spirit-sifting banner was destroyed because of Xiao Yuan's wrong calculation. It hasn't been fixed yet. Otherwise, we could have killed the tiger demon directly. Don't always talk about me. My calculation is slow to begin with. You forgot that you also destroyed something called the Brocade Cloud Shuttle. It was sealed, and it was faster than the hurricane boots. Otherwise, the rabbit would have run away long ago. Maybe it has already seen its family. Its family is running out of food, and there is a lot of food in its summer ring. Xiao Yuan retorted Xiaobei unhappily. Kei Tuqin understood. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were telling stories to their younger siblings while helping them revise. He felt that this was a good idea, but the average family couldn't afford it. There were few teachers and they were too busy. Kei Tuqin was very envious when he compared the education of his own race. At this time, Mo Jillian happened to come over. He had heard the contents of the telegram just now. No one was avoiding him, so he came over to help say something about the wind logistics. Seeing that Kei Tuqin was also here, he nodded and said to Zhang Xiaobao, Zhang Xiaobao, news from Luoyang says that the merchants have increased their sniping efforts. The wind logistics won't be able to deal with it in a few days. Oh, okay. It's time for me to do something. I can't let the participating merchants lose money, said Zhang Xiaobao happily as he took off the tiger's head and revealed his head. Mo Jillian said with emotion, they are so obedient. They believe you when you say that you will make profits and not lose money. I'm thinking that if you use up all your wealth today and say that you need money with your reputation, you can get tens of thousands of strings of cash, right? Tens of thousands of strings of cash. That's too little. Uncle Emperor said that even if my brother has nothing, as long as he calls for help, all the merchants of the Tang Empire will respond. Even Uncle Emperor will take out money for my brother. Not to mention my brother, I can get tens of thousands of strings of cash just by calling for help. Xiaobei said discontentedly when he saw that Mo Jillian called his brother's ability small. Mo Jillian said in surprise, he is actually valued so much. I don't know how he cultivated in his previous life. Chapter 875. The mountains were dyed red, the roads were rutted, and the flags were fluttering in the wind. The sun was gone and the moon was bright. The horses neighed, and the people bowed in the mud. The wind was blowing, and the rain was falling. During the spring plowing season, those who hoped for more rain suddenly found that the rainy season seemed to be extending. This added a trace of worry. After Li Longji gave the order, the Temporary Disaster Relief Department quickly started to work. They sent telegrams to the various prefectures to check Chongping's warehouse. If there was anything missing, they were to report it immediately. If they did not, they were to be punished severely. They also sent conscription orders to the Zhang family and Wang family. If they needed supplies, the Zhang family and Wang family had to take out something. They knew that if Chongping's warehouse was empty, the Zhang family and Wang family would definitely be prepared. If Zhang Xiaobao was not busy with other things and was not willing to follow the disaster all day long, he would have already distributed the supplies to the disaster areas. Many people guessed that Zhang Xiaobao did not take action this spring because he was afraid that every disaster relief would be led by him. In the end, the people only remembered the Zhang family and Wang family and did not know the kindness of the imperial court. That was why he was indifferent. Today, there was not a big disaster in Hunan province. Because of the bridge, the embankment on this part of the Yellow River was deliberately strengthened, so it was not washed away. On the embankment, there were countless carriages. The muddy road was full of ruts, and occasionally there would be people pushing and pulling horses. When the wind blew, the flags would flutter nonstop. Mother, walk slowly. The road is slippery, and it is difficult to walk when it rains. We should build a 3 feet wide cement sidewalk. Wait for me to write a letter tonight and send it to the capital's Ministry of Works tomorrow. Let Minister Zhang see if he can find someone to pay for it. On the road, a 14 or 15-year-old boy supported a woman and walked with difficulty. His pants were covered in mud. He spoke to the woman as he walked. The woman frowned slightly and advised, "How can you be involved in such a big matter as building a road? Even if you write a letter, you should send it to the eastern capital's Luoyang prefecture first." Minister Zhang is not in Luoyang. I can't count on the officials in Luoyang to do their best. How can I not be involved in such a big matter? I passed the imperial examination last year, so I should contribute to Tang. Otherwise, wouldn't I be wasting the merchant's money? The purpose of the Chaoyang operation is not to cultivate trash. The young man found an excuse for himself so that his mother would agree. The woman looked at her son's stubbornness and sighed. If you take action in Chaoyang, there will be more and more high scholars. If you don't get a good ranking in the examinations, your high scholar status will become worthless in the future. Learning is not only for the spring quarter examinations, but also to increase one's knowledge, to understand reason, and to understand the greater good. This child has studied chemistry in school. Isn't the soap that I make very useful? Looking at the inner courtyard of the Zhang family and Wang family, they are still servants. When it comes to knowledge, I admit that I am inferior. Mother, why did you come to my side again? There are so many carriages, and the horses are tired out. Be careful not to lose your temper and kick people. You can go to the other side. My body is agile, and even if I encounter a crazy horse, I can still avoid it. As the young man spoke, he pulled his mother back. The woman had no choice but to listen to her son. In fact, she deliberately went over so that if there was any danger, she could help her son block it. Mother, let's walk on the grass. I heard from the other students in school that there is a war in Hunan province. It is called a war without knives and arrows. The Japanese's Win Logistics wants to cause trouble, but the merchants of Tang Empire can't stand it and sent people here to deal with them. Mother, look, the flag of Splendid Grocery. Mother, don't be fooled by their status as merchants. They are quite capable. I heard that the merchants who came this time are all in the top 100 of the list of billionaires. They are famous everywhere. Any one of them can affect the rise and fall of local prices. The young man saw a group of carriages passing by and pointed to the flag to introduce it to his mother. If they are so capable, wouldn't it be chaotic? I don't see them showing off. There are still 2 of them in Luoyang. Mother feels that the rice and noodles are still the same. The woman usually did not care about such things and knew little. When she heard her son's words, her words were full of disbelief. The young man walked to a nearby tree and broke off a willow branch. He waved it in front of him, afraid that a grass snake would suddenly jump out and bite him. He smiled and said to his mother, "Mother, you don't know. It's not that they can't do it, but that they don't dare. The people on the top list are powerful, but there is someone even more powerful. He is above the list. Zhang Xiaobao, the son of Minister Zhang of the Ministry of Works, is close to my age. If the merchants on the list dare to attack the local economy, Zhang Xiaobao can immediately make them bankrupt. Unfortunately, I have never seen him." Xiaobao? Mother knows Xiaobao. Mother has seen him before. There is also his fiancée, Cuckoo. She is so beautiful. Her pair of big eyes can speak. With one look, you can tell that she is a blessing to her husband. She is gentle, virtuous, and generous. She is very cheerful. The woman finally had someone who knew.
Ah.
Mother, you have seen her? What does she look like? The young man was interested. She is not as good-looking as my son. My son is the most good-looking in the Tang dynasty. Even if you can't pass the Jinshe exam in the future, I will be satisfied if you can find a wife like Cuckoo. In the eyes of the woman, her son was the best. The young man nodded helplessly. I also think that Mother is the best mother in the world. But Mother's requirements for your daughter-in-law are really making things difficult for me. Moreover, I don't think she is gentle and cheerful. How is she not gentle and virtuous? She smiles at everyone. Mother likes her. The woman wanted to set the standard for her daughter-in-law. The young man trembled. Mother, when she is riding a horse, she is also very steady. When she kills people, corpses are piled up like mountains. When blood flows like rivers, she blinks her cute big eyes and smiles. People say that it is better to hear the king of hell cry than to see the devil laugh. Even if I can find such a woman, I would not dare to marry her. I would be scared to death by nightmares at night. Only Zhang Xiaobao, who talks about destroying countries with a smile, has the ability to control her. Mother, I suddenly thought of something important. We should not eat garlic recently. Tang Dynasty's merchants are fighting with Wind Logistics. On one hand, they want to raise the price. On the other hand, they are worried that ordinary people will not have a good life. We have to help them and let them rest assured. Mother knows. We have been eating onions recently. That broken place in Japan dares to compete with our great Tang. Let them know how powerful we are. The woman deliberately straightened her body and said disdainfully, showing the pride that Tang people should have. The woman was not the only one who thought so. Others who understood the situation also supported her. It was just 2 months of not eating garlic. Now that their lives were better, eating other things was the same. As a result, the merchants who participated in the sniping found that the situation was clearer. It was easier for them to operate. The price of garlic was adjusted according to Wind Logistics' actions, so Fengqiao Shoji could not gain any advantage. Fengqiao Shoji could not sleep well for a few days. His eyes were red, and his skin was wrinkled. He was as haggard as a green bristlegrass in the rain. However, he was not as tough as the green bristlegrass. Buying 50,000 strings of garlic at a high price only affected the price of garlic in a small area. It did not lead to a large-scale price increase at all. They wanted to sell garlic, but they could not sell it. The entire Hunan province's people tacitly stopped eating garlic. Even Zhang Xiaobao did not expect this. If they wanted to sell it to a distant place, transportation was a problem. The mountain of garlic could not be taken care of because of the lack of storage. In the rain, some were damp, some were moldy, some were shriveled, and some were even rotten at the bottom. Every day, they lost a lot of garlic. Ha 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 ha. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. Fengqiao Shoji, who was standing by the window, suddenly laughed out loud. Yamamoto Kazumoto was frightened and thought that Fengqiao Shoji had gone crazy. Just as they were about to do something, Fengqiao Shoji stopped laughing. Wow, when Fengqiao Shoji came to Great Tang, I actually made dozens of people on the top rankings of Great Tang attack me at the same time. Although I lost, who could do that? Who in the world can attract so many people to attack me at the same time? Even if I lose, they will make my name. Yamamoto Kazumoto nodded. Indeed, there had never been dozens of people on the top rankings of Great Tang attacking a single person. Yamamoto was about to say a few words of agreement, but upon further thought, he realized that this wasn't the case. Even if several dozen merchants didn't work together, any one of them, given the wealth of their family, would only have a fraction of what Fengbridge Lord had. The reason for this was to show the unity of the merchants of Great Tang, and it felt like they were doing this for Zhang Xiaobao. After hesitating for a moment, Yamamoto resisted the urge to say it out loud. It was better not to make things difficult for Fengqiao Shoji. Fengqiao Shoji's face turned red with excitement. He continued, I have an idea. I will continue to collect green onions and ginger. I still have a lot of money. I don't believe that the people of Great Tang will not eat anything. I will make them busy. Fengqiao Shoji, you can't do that. How chaotic can Great Tang be? If you personally collect the green onions and ginger, the prices of the two will increase by several times. It might even increase by dozens of times. It will increase our purchasing cost. Yamamoto felt that Fengqiao Shoji had really gone crazy. When he came, he brought sulfur and silver worth 1,000,000 strings of coins. If he were to withdraw now, he would have less than 400,000 strings of coins left. If he were to collect more green onions and ginger, he might end up with nothing left. He was here to earn money, not to act rashly. Fengqiao Shoji shook his head. If the prices increase, won't the people eat? I want to see what Zhang Xiaobao can do to destroy his reputation and shatter his legend. Yamamoto, Fengqiao Shoji, Yamamoto Shoji. All the supermarkets in Hunan province have put up notices. Just as Fengqiao Shoji made up his mind, a Japanese man ran in and shouted at the three of them. Na Jiang. Supermarkets? What kind of notice? Fengqiao Shoji did not know how to speak anymore. He could only say what? It's about the green onions and ginger. The notice says that from tomorrow onwards, all the supermarkets in Hunan province will supply green onions and ginger at the same price. 10 days later, they will supply garlic at the same price. The people of Hunan province can use their household registration to buy garlic. It's said that it's spring plowing and it's a great discount. The Japanese man said. He meant that the price of garlic will drop in 5 days. However, he did not know that Fengqiao Shoji was thinking about the green onions and ginger. When Yamamoto heard this, he whispered to Yamamoto Shoji, "Is it over?" The supermarkets were established by the Zhang family. There are many chain supermarkets around them. They have many business partners. Before Fengqiao Shoji could do anything, Zhang Xiaobao had already blocked the road. His timing is really accurate. But I am puzzled. Where will the green onions in 10 days come from? From elsewhere? He would rather lose money than sell them? I don't think so. How can Zhang Xiaobao do the same thing as other Tang businessmen? Then he is not Zhang Xiaobao. Let's wait and see. There are still many things to do. Do you still remember Zhang Xiaobao's scheme? Yes. He should have stopped earlier. The batch of garlic from Huainan province was coming to attack our deposit. If we stopped immediately, we might have suffered less losses. But Fengqiao Shoji did not believe it.
Sighs.
Yamamoto did not dare to continue thinking about it. He waved his hand and asked the Japanese man to leave. He turned around and looked at Fengqiao Shoji, who was stunned and sighed. After a full 15 minutes, Fengqiao Shoji recovered from the shock. What should I do? What should I do? Lord Fengqiao, with the rest of your money, go to the Great Tang Bank and get the silver back. After deducting the interest, you should still have 350,000 strings of silver. Quickly sell off the overstock of garlic in order to make a comeback. When Yamamoto came up with this idea, he wanted to cry but had no tears. In less than 2 months, they only had 400,000 strings of silver left. Including the sulfur that was not pawned off, they only had 500,000 strings of silver in 2 months. What kind of business could lose money like this? Next, there was the storage fee. Because the goods were not from Great Tang before they were sold, they had to specify where they were stored and what they were used for. Now that it was exposed, they had to pay a tax. When they first came in, they left with the tribute from Japan. The tribute had not been sent to the capital, so the purpose of the other goods was unknown. Thinking about it, Zhang Xiaobao would solve this loophole. Yamamoto only hoped that there would not be any additional punishment. Fengqiao Shoji could not think of any other way and nodded. Okay, Yamamoto, help me. The three of them took the loan contract and the remaining money from the Great Tang Bank and headed to the Great Tang Bank in the center of Luoyang. When they arrived, before they could say anything, a person approached them and said with a smile, "Are you Fengqiao Shoji, Yamamoto, and Yamamoto?" "You are?" Yamamoto was puzzled. "I am Zhongjia Zhuangzi Inner Court Deacon, Susi. This should be Yamamoto." When we received the news, the young master said that Win Logistics would not lose everything in one go. Yamamoto is Yamamoto. Japan is a great country, and Great Tang is also a great country. The people of Great Tang are kind and intelligent, and the people of Japan are kind and intelligent. Yamamoto and Yamamoto have suffered losses before, and the young master believes that the two of you will change. He will persuade Fengqiao Shoji to come and repay the loan. He also said that Yamamoto is loyal and is talkative. Since Fengqiao Shoji is new, he will not respond. The first to speak will be Yamamoto, right? This person called himself Susi. He first said a few diplomatic words, then named Yamamoto and told them the reason. In an instant, the backs of the three of them were drenched in sweat. Fengqiao Shoji was the most affected. Not only did he sweat a lot, but his face also turned pale. He had finally witnessed Zhang Xiaobao's prowess. He knew that Zhang Xiaobao was currently staying in his hometown in Sanshui County. He was so far away, yet the telegram was sent. Not only did it prevent him from having any other ideas, it also allowed the inner yard to wait at the bank. They only knew that Zhang Xiaobao's economic skills were not small, but Zhang Xiaobao had already analyzed their characters. Could it be that he was really invulnerable? Yamamoto was used to it and admitted, "That's right, I'm Yamamoto. May I know why Susie is here? If I say that I'm helping you, you will think that I'm a hypocrite. I'll tell you the truth. The young master wants to teach you a lesson. He knows that you guys are manipulating the price of garlic, but he still bought it at a high price. He wants to take over your Win logistics and offers you 10,000 strings of cash. It's an exchange. The condition of the exchange is that we won't pursue the fact that you guys bought and sold the goods under the name of tribute. However, you have to pay the taxes. The silver will be 100% collected, and the sulfur will be exempted because Tang needs sulfur." The young master said that this is the last chance.
Do you agree or not?
Susie didn't say any pleasantries and directly told the three of them what the young master meant.
Agree.
Yamamoto and Yamamoto said at the same time. They didn't even think about it. Fengqiao Shoji was still thinking about what Susie said and was trying to calculate the gains and losses. Seeing that the two of them had agreed, he was puzzled. Did the two of them finish analyzing the gains and losses? Fengqiao, since Zhang Xiaobao sent someone here, he definitely didn't mean to mock or bully us. He doesn't want to do that. His conditions must be the best for us. If we don't agree, the consequences will be unimaginable. Yamamoto explained to Fengqiao Shoji. This was the reason why he and Yamamoto agreed so quickly. Fengqiao Zheng immediately lost his initial arrogance of wanting to be on the same level as Zhang Xiaobao. He realized that he was too far behind Zhang Xiaobao. It was no wonder that Zhang Xiaobao could make decisions with just a few words. Even the top merchants of Great Tang had to take the initiative to express their stance. In terms of economics, Zhang Xiaobao was like a god. Just like how the ancestors of Buddhism said, one hand pointed to the sky and the other pointed to the earth. In the heavens and under the earth, he was the only one. I wonder how Zhang Xiaobao is going to teach them a lesson? Fengqiao Shoji's voice was trembling when he spoke. He wanted to know how Zhang Xiaobao was going to handle the logistics. He really couldn't think of anything. If Fengqiao Shoji isn't in a hurry to return to China, you'll know later. Let's sign the contract. Su Si said with a smile. Fengqiao Shoji nodded. Okay. There's one more thing. Where did the garlic come from in 10 days at the supermarket in Hunan province? From Xinlua. After the young master found out about what you did, he immediately contacted someone at the border of Xinlua and exchanged an important technical formula for a large amount of Xinlua garlic. During this period of time, he has been transporting the garlic to Hunan province at the fastest speed. After 8 days, he will be able to distribute the garlic. After 10 days, he will be able to buy the garlic. Su Si didn't hide anything, but he didn't say what the technical formula was. This made Yamamoto and the other two curious. Fengqiao Shoji wanted to return the money when he went to investigate in the future. After doing some calculations, he realized that Tang was willing to pay more for the sulfur. After paying 100% of the silver tax, he didn't have any money left. And this was because Zhang Xiaobao didn't pursue other matters. He was indeed ruthless. Su Jun, isn't young Master Zhang Xiaobao going to compensate the other merchants? Fengqiao Shoji asked. He didn't believe that Zhang Xiaobao wouldn't do anything. Chapter 876. Fengqiao Shoji and Su Si signed the contract. The next day, someone came looking for them to discuss the purchase of silver and sulfur. The price of silver was reasonable, and the purity of sulfur was not bad. Fengqiao Shoji was willing to pay an extra sum to show Fengqiao Shoji that Zhang Xiaobao was a fair businessman. However, before the money in their hands could even warm up, they had to pay another tax to Great Tang. Luckily, Zhang Xiaobao said that he would not punish them, so no one came to find them. As noon approached, Yamamoto and the other two didn't dare to go to the Water Cloud Club. They found a restaurant on a narrow road in Luoyang that specialized in soup pancakes. The variety inside was not bad. There were shaved noodles, ramen, and minced noodles. The three of them saw that there were some black fungus in the minced meat noodles, so they chose this one. The three of them ate until they were sweating profusely. When they were paying the bill, Fengqiao Shoji took out 6 coins from his money pouch and placed them on the table one by one to show that the amount was correct. If Wanwan saw this, she would definitely feel that this scene was very familiar. The difference was the amount. The restaurant had placed 9 copper coins, so it could be seen how poor the three of them were. Needless to say, the people in the soup pancake restaurant were honest. The three of them ate until their stomachs were full. When they burped, they did not smell much of the black fungus. It was all ginger. Yamamoto rubbed his stomach and gritted his teeth. Damn, it's so delicious. I won't forget it for the rest of my life. Fengqiao Shoji, isn't it time to go back? Remember to go to the side and take a look. Just now, I saw that restaurant selling sesame seed pancakes. I bought a few to eat on the way. It's a pity that Hunan is not as good as Sanshui County. What can Sanshui County do? The two of you don't have a single copper coin on you? Fengqiao Shoji understood Yamamoto's meaning. They wanted to walk back to the Four Seas Academy and buy some dry rations. Sanshui County is good. It doesn't matter if you bring sesame seed pancakes or fried noodles. When you see a pavilion, you can drink free soup and eat salted vegetables. Actually, you won't starve to death even if you don't bring any food. The money we have is for the students of our country to study. We can't squander it. As Yamamoto spoke, he took out 1 Roman note from his pocket. The denominations varied. The large ones were 100 strings of coins, while the small ones were only 10 coins. Shanxi also chimed in. Lord Windbridge, you can't enjoy anymore. Let's go. Suffer more hardships so that you can remember them well. Windy Bridge Shoji pursed his lips and didn't say anything, but his eyes were filled with hostility. He looked back and forth between the two of them, implying that he would remember them. A day later, the news that Su Si had taken over Win Logistics spread throughout the entire Hunan province. Before the merchants who had pushed up the price of garlic with Win Logistics could react, the price of garlic in the entire Hunan province fell to the bottom. The normal price was reduced from 10 copper coins per caddy to 1 copper coin per caddy. Su Si, under the name of Win Logistics, began to transport the garlic to the designated location. As for the losses caused recently, Win Logistics was willing to compensate with the market price. As the merchants of Win Logistics knew that Windy Bridge Shoji wanted to collect garlic, other than the first time when he really wanted to transport the garlic to the location, he chose to transport the garlic to the nearest location in order to save on the shipping fee. For example, he chose to transport the garlic from one village to another. The merchants were dumbfounded. Win Logistics said that they had found the lost garlic, so it was impossible for them to pay 3 or even 5 times the original price. Moreover, even if they did pay, they would use the cost of transporting the garlic from Xinlua to offset it. Even if they paid 5 times the original price, it would only be 5 copper coins. Because of the delay in transporting the garlic, paying again was different from losing it. It was impossible for them to pay the highest price, so they would calculate according to that price. This involved the problem of artificial speculation. For example, if a merchant wanted to transport the goods from one place to another, the price of the goods would be the same when they were bought and the same when they were sold. If there was a slight delay on the way, the merchant who handled the consignment would make arrangements in advance at the destination and raise the price of the goods. Would the logistics company have to pay according to the price? If that was the case, if the logistics company deliberately lowered the price of the goods in that place, the merchant would lose money. Therefore, usually, the compensation would be based on the price of the goods at the destination, which was the price of the goods at the time of shipment. As the system was not perfect, there was no way to preserve the value of the goods. The late arrival of the goods and the non-arrival of the goods were 2 different things. In this way, if Win Logistics lost money, they would only lose a small part of the money. If they lost the garlic because it was not delivered, they would have to pay the fixed amount. The merchants did some calculations. No matter which method they chose to pay, they would lose a part of the money in the end. Although it was not a lot, and according to the terms of the contract, some merchants could even get a break-even result. However, if they really calculated it, this was not the case. Because the merchants had put their energy on the garlic, they did not trade in other aspects during this period of time. No income was a loss, and none of them were willing to accept such an outcome. They really wanted Wind Logistics to compensate them with physical objects. For example, if a lot of garlic rotted due to the delay, then this loss would need to be managed by the logistics company. The stipulated time when they signed the contract was set to prevent the garlic from rotting. The merchants felt that the price of garlic could not stay so low. There would be a time when the price would rise. Then they would still be able to make money once the price of garlic recovered. However, they were worried that Zhang Xiaobao was determined to deal with them. After compensating them for the garlic, he would keep lowering the price so that their garlic could not be sold at the normal price for a period of time. In that case, some people would borrow money to buy the garlic, and some people would mortgage their fixed assets to buy the garlic. All the money would be bet on the garlic. This part of the merchants had no choice but to choose to pay in cash. First, they did not want to provoke Zhang Xiaobao, who was angry. Second, they could quickly recover their funds and carry out the next step of investment. Sure enough, when they just got the money from Wind Logistics, the price of garlic once again returned to the normal fluctuation. The purpose of lowering the price first was to force these merchants to make a decision. Some of these merchants lost money, and some lost money. They wasted a lot of time and opportunities on the garlic, but they did not get the slightest benefit. In addition to them, there was another group of merchants who participated in the plan to attack Wind Logistics. They still had a lot of high-priced garlic on hand. According to Zhang Xiaobao, they would not lose money. They were waiting for Zhang Xiaobao to give them an idea. Feng Qiao Zhengsan and the others did not leave immediately. They wanted to figure out how Zhang Xiaobao would make others earn money. The person who was in charge of the specific operation was Su Si. He found the merchants on the various rankings and sold the remaining garlic from Wind Logistics at the price of 10,000 strings of coins. Even the rotten ones were shipped away together. He gave the merchants a formula to make sweet garlic, which was also a formula for Xian Luo. He signed a contract with the merchants to buy sweet garlic. It was also because of this that Xian Luo was willing to take out so much garlic. They had signed a long-term acquisition contract, the kind that was tariff-free, and they could also get foreign exchange from Tang dynasty. The better garlic was picked out, leaving behind the bad ones, and the ones that were starting to rot. Zhang Xiaobao asked the merchants to transport the garlic that could last for a while before rotting to the place where the flood had washed away the fields. The ones that could not be transported in time were planted on the spot to cultivate garlic sprouts. The ones that could be transported could be used to plant garlic sprouts in the flooded fields. Even if garlic was rotten, as long as it was not completely rotten, it could still grow garlic sprouts. As long as the core was not rotten, the other parts would provide nutrients for the growth of the garlic sprouts. As for what to do when the garlic sprouts grew up, it was simple. They could be directly made into various dishes, canned food, or even made into pickles. The people who had suffered the disaster would weave tiger head altars with branches. As for how to sell them, Zhang Xiaobao did not need to teach the top 100 merchants on the rankings. The merchants discussed through telegrams and estimated the operation method and price. They found that they did not lose money. If they operated well, they could even make a small profit. Chapter 877. Zhang Xiaobao had never been to Henan province in person to solve the problem of the price of garlic. He was not as nervous and anxious as other people when they encountered problems. He was like the sky after the rain, calm and peaceful. The people farther away from Henan province did not know that not long ago, there was a war that cost 2 million strings of coins, which was 2 billion coins, and there was no smoke of gunpowder. As the instigator of the war, Wind Logistics had changed its name. Its 3 leaders lost all their money, and its supporters also did not get any benefits. The sniper side, on the other hand, made a small profit. At the same time, they solved the problems of resettlement and employment for the people in the disaster areas not far away. The news spread to the capital in the blink of an eye. The people who paid attention to this matter understood the situation from beginning to end. Suddenly, they had a very comfortable feeling, like drinking a mouthful of ice-sour plum juice in the desert on a hot summer day. Zhang Xiaobao's method of dealing with the wind logistics was too smooth. Not only did he solve the problem of wind logistics, but he also taught the merchants who followed wind logistics to raise the price of garlic. Moreover, the merchants who came to work as thugs gained benefits. In the future, there would be a new food, sweet garlic, and they would be able to taste many kinds of food made with garlic sprouts. At the same time, he also sorted out the income problem of the people in the disaster areas. National scholar. This is my national scholar. What is that saying? Li Longji said happily when he dipped the tomatoes grown in glass from Jian and with sugar and ate them. Only Gao Lisher knew the emperor well. If it were someone else, they would not have thought of the emperor's question. He put down the tomato that was about to be stuffed into his mouth and said, "Your Majesty, did you say that Xiao He once said, 'It is easy to listen to generals, but if you believe, the national scholar is unparalleled'?" Yes. In fact, it is not unparalleled. There is also Cuckoo. Speaking of Cuckoo, I just remembered that she has recently settled down and did not want to lead troops to attack others. Li Longji nodded. Wei Gao Lisher shook her head and said, "Your Majesty, Cuckoo did not move, but wrote a letter to the Ministry of War, asking them to carry out a sand table simulation and even a real field exercise." She divided the troops into two groups. One group is equipped with cannons, hot air balloons, and the other group is equipped with swords, spears, and sticks.
Huh?
Cuckoo wants to make fun of people? How can swords, spears, and clubs defeat cannons? Li Longji was flabbergasted. Your Majesty, that's exactly the case. That's why Cuckoo made a rule that the number of people armed with swords, spears, and clubs is 10 times that of cannons. Priority is given to choosing the terrain and climate. That's bullying with numbers. Gao Lisher briefly explained the situation. No. Li Longji waved his hand and said, "That doesn't make any difference, unless Cuckoo personally leads 10 times the number of troops. Maybe then we'll have a chance." Not so, Your Majesty. Cuckoo didn't say that. In the plan she gave to the Ministry of War, it was mentioned that whoever wins a battle with 10 times the number of soldiers and the terrain chosen by him and the weather chosen by him is qualified. Whoever wins a battle with 3 times the number of soldiers and the weather chosen by him and the terrain chosen by him is excellent. However, these 3 are not true military gods. A military god should have an equal number of soldiers and be able to win a battle with any terrain and the weather chosen by him. Gao Lisher began to talk about the grading system in detail. Then who can do it? The influence of the terrain and the weather is very important, so it has to be checked. Li Longji had a better understanding of military affairs and spoke. Your Majesty, Cuckoo said that if she has time this autumn, she can use the same number of soldiers and the same terrain and weather to fight with the Tang generals. She wants to warn the Tang generals not to underestimate the enemy just because they have good weapons. Life and death in war are just like the weather, changeable and unpredictable. In the future, they will go to other places and won't have the opportunity to choose the weather and terrain. Oh, there's such a thing? I'm looking forward to it. Even if the 10,000 cavalry battalion is here, I'll have them train well. I wonder where Cuckoo wants to fight? I'll start preparing now. Li Longji was interested in the drill, but what he wanted to know more was where Cuckoo wanted to go with her sword. This subject will remember it. There's still some time before Cuckoo's matter. Xiaobao's stratagem, Lisher, do you think it's over? Li Longji thought of Zhang Xiaobao again. He had seen the chain of stratagems against the wind logistics, but he felt that it was not over yet. Gao Lisher had the same thought and said, Your Majesty, this subject feels that it's not over yet. Xiaobao's stratagem won't be so small. 1 million strings of coins, which is a lot of money in the national treasury, and a part of it was given to the merchants who participated in the attack. Xiaobao only got empty logistics, and his family doesn't lack logistics. And according to this subject's understanding, Xiaobao is very vengeful. This matter will ultimately be blamed on Japan. It's a transnational commercial war. Since this is the case, Xiao Bao should continue the war and, at the same time, get some benefits for his family. It's always been like this. He doesn't do this for money, it's that. He's afraid that I'll be suspicious, afraid that people will say that he's a saint, and then when I turn hostile, he will fight with me and affect the lives of the Tang people. He can't bear it, can he? Without waiting for Gao Lishir to finish, Li Longji continued. Gao Lishir was so scared that he knelt in front of Li Longji and said, "Your Majesty, this subject doesn't dare. Even if your Majesty wants to kill Xiao Bao, he will stretch out his neck and not confront your Majesty. All right, according to Xiao Bao's words, you're burning newspapers on the grave. Are you trying to fool ghosts? I believe that you won't, and at the same time, I also believe that they will. But I'm not worried. I'm not muddle-headed yet. I'm still very good at judging people. Even if I give them a seat now, they won't sit. They're afraid of trouble and not being able to wander around. Let's not talk about this anymore. Help me think. What is Xiao Bao's backup plan? Sometimes, I feel that watching Xiao Bao's stratagems is more interesting than listening to the discussions of the subjects in court. Li Longji's heart was as clear as a mirror. Just as he said, he was not muddle-headed yet. Gao Lishir did not refute and said, "Yes, this subject burns newspapers. This subject also feels that Xiao Bao's stratagems are fun." Yes, newspapers. Speaking of newspapers, the local newspapers that have telegrams should be able to keep up with the capital, right? In the past, only the places around the capital could get the news early. But further away, they would get the news later. Let me think about it. This is a business opportunity. In the past, it was considered good to publish a newspaper every half a month. The advertising fees were very low, and not many people bought newspapers. The main reason was that the speed of news transmission was slow, so the price could not be raised. But now, Your Majesty, there's no need to think about it. Xiao Bao had already telegraphed a detailed plan this morning. This subject did not have the time to read it in full. I only remember that the most eye-catching part of the plan was that in the future, the price of newspapers would be set at 1 copper coin per copy. Also, it would not be the current 16 pages, but at least 64 pages, or even 128 pages. Gao Lishir did not want to interrupt the emperor, but he was worried that the emperor would be angry when he realized that the plan was not as good as Xiao Bao's.
Huh?
Li Longji was stunned and said, "According to this plan, the people who buy newspapers will be able to get the same amount of money by selling the paper. Is that still newspapers? It's called a book. This subject will go and get it for Your Majesty to take a closer look." This subject is not sure either. Gao Lishir hurriedly left. Not long after, he returned with 2 pieces of paper in his hand. "Your Majesty, this subject took a look at it on the way here. It won't be a loss. Of the 128 pages, 120 pages might be advertisements. When the merchants who advertise see that there are many people selling their products, they will naturally be willing to spend more money. When the people who buy the paper realize that they can still sell it for 1 copper coin, even if they don't sell it, they will be willing to buy it after using it to paste walls, light fires, or even practice calligraphy. You can also print short stories and jokes in the newspaper to increase the income of literate people who don't have scholarly honors and can't find a good job." Xiao Bao said in his letter that those who have children studying in school are at least 80% likely to be able to buy the newspaper. It's not because of the things written in the newspaper, but because of the pride of having their children read it. Gao Lishir didn't show the letter to the emperor and only explained it to him. Li Longji pondered for a moment before agreeing. That's right. Since Darren Wang bought newspapers and had his children read them in front of the door, the Wang family also has children studying in school. After seeing this, they will definitely buy newspapers and have their children read them in front of the door. This way, their children will be able to practice more outside the school. In the future, if I want to do something, I just need to get people to write supportive words in the newspapers. Then when I do something, the people will be very supportive. It's like killing multiple birds with 1 stone. Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao, you've already thought of everything. I really want to transfer him to the capital to become the prime minister, but he's still too young. Lishir, he should be able to take the imperial examinations now, right? Next year, I'll have him participate in the spring imperial examinations. I'll give him the top score. With his talent, it won't be considered biased, right? It won't be considered. If Xiao Bao becomes the top scorer, no one will dare to criticize him. If he doesn't become the top scorer, it will be difficult to stop the public from gossiping. Not only will the people of Great Tang doubt him, even other countries will laugh at him. It's just that this subject sees their intentions. Cuckoo also wants to take the imperial examinations, and Xiao Bao is sometimes quite afraid of Cuckoo. For a person of his age, he would already have a servant to warm his bed or choose a concubine. Occasionally, he would even go to the brothels to drink wine and listen to music. However, not only does Xiao Bao not do these things, he even occasionally cooks delicious food for Cuckoo. He's a man, not a chef, so how can he do such things? Sometimes, this subject really doesn't understand. Fortunately, Cuckoo isn't a shrew, otherwise, this subject wouldn't agree no matter what. Gao Lishir thought of Wang Wan again and felt indignant for his godson. Li Longji didn't want to care about whether Zhang Xiaobao or Wang Wan listened to who. He took the telegram from Gao Lishir and read it word by word. Tai Bai, the day after tomorrow, someone will pay for a banquet at the hibiscus garden. I heard that there will be a big shot coming. Why don't you prepare early? Who knows, maybe you'll be chosen and be moved to a more suitable position. All day long, you're dealing with reports with a listless appearance. The position of Minister of Revenue really doesn't suit you. In the office of the Ministry of Revenue, Li Bai sat under the window. From time to time, he would compare the data of several sets of reports on the table. Occasionally, he would turn his head to look at the scenery outside. Just as he was taking the time to sigh, a person sitting at the table behind him leaned over and whispered to him. Li Bai didn't need to look to know who it was. The official secretary of the Ministry of Revenue was in charge of the 3 daos. His rank was lower than his, and he always asked for poems from him and showed them off. Hearing him mention the hibiscus garden, Li Bai thought of how the shore of the Chu River there was already lush greenery. His eyebrows slightly relaxed, but before he could feel happy, the corners of his mouth moved again. He shook his head and sighed. I'm not going. I have to do my work properly. A few days ago, I drank too much and was delayed. I'm not going anywhere. It's really a big shot. There seems to be a commandery prince. If a commandery princess also goes and takes a fancy to you, then the official secretary didn't seem to give up and continued to persuade him. In fact, his purpose was to let Li Bai change places so that he could take over Li Bai's position. Li Bai still shook his head. Seeing him urging him, he picked up the writing brush on the pillow and said to him, Brother Qixing, these days, haven't you always wanted to know how I became the Minister of Revenue? You're curious about who recommended me? Yes. Tai Bai, you want to tell me? The official secretary nodded and looked forward to it. In the past, I didn't want to tell you. I was also planning to find a place in the capital to worship so that I could find a better place. However, whenever I found someone, when they asked me where I used to live and found out who recommended me, they would immediately change their initial intention of recommending me and only talk about the wind and moon with me. Li Bai couldn't help but feel disheartened when he thought of the blows he had received during this period. The official secretary craned his neck and asked, Who did you find? I found Wang Bei, the minister of the Ministry of Revenue, He Zhizhang, Yuan Qianyao, and even sent an invitation to Wu Huifei. Anyway, I found all the people who were willing to give me a chance to meet them, but the result was the same. Li Bai said the names one by one. The official secretary was surprised and envious. He didn't expect that Li Bai could be summoned by so many people. He didn't have this ability. Suddenly, he thought of one person and said to Li Bai, Tai Bai, didn't you find Zhang Zhong, the minister of the Ministry of Works? He may have some ideas. Find him? I was recommended by his son, Zhang Xiaobao. When I was in Jili province, it was Jianan province. Zhang Xiaobao asked me which official I wanted. He didn't give me a level 5 official, so I had to choose a minister. I thought that if I came to the capital first, although Zhang Xiaobao asked me to be a minister, I could find someone to visit him. If someone else arranged it, I wouldn't be a minister anymore. I can't blame myself for thinking too highly of myself. I only thought that Zhang Xiaobao's reputation was a bit bigger. His family was rich, and he was smart, but his influence on the officials in the capital wouldn't be that big. To be honest, when I came here, I thought that the recommendation letter that Zhang Xiaobao casually wrote would be useless. He made a note, wrote a sentence recommending me, and put his name at the end. I came here with guesses and full of expectations, but I haven't moved from the place until now. But is it my fault? Who knew about that lousy note at that time?
Who knew?
Li Bai's voice was sobbing when he spoke, and his body was trembling with Weiwei. The registrar finally understood this time. He patted Li Bai's shoulder and said, "Tai Bai, treat it as if I didn't tell you about the hibiscus garden. In the future, I won't ask you to go to such a place. You just have to be a minister, and don't think about other things. It's useless, no matter who you ask. Even if the emperor goes to the hibiscus garden the day after tomorrow and sees the poem you wrote and suddenly feels that you should be promoted, after knowing that you were recommended by Zhang Xiaobao to be a minister of revenue, he will continue to encourage you to do a good job in the position of minister of revenue. In fact, I envy you, but I also hate that you don't improve. If I can get Zhang Xiaobao's recommendation, no matter what position I am in, I will do a good job and satisfy Zhang Xiaobao so that he can continue to promote me. You are holding a golden rice bowl and begging for food. If there's anything you don't understand, just ask me. I heard that Zhang Xiaobao will be returning to Beijing soon. You better behave well. When you get promoted, I'll be able to sit in your position. If there's a chance, let me talk to Zhang Xiaobao. Xiaobei is fine too. I'll treat you to a drink every 10 days. Li Bai looked at the registrar gratefully and nodded. I already know that being an official is not easy. I have decided to drink for the next 3 days. It's just that being in charge of the forms has tired me to death. I don't know how Zhang Xiaobao can manage so many things. I heard about the wind logistics, but I can't figure it out. If you can't figure it out, then don't think about it. Just think about how this matter was done by Zhang Xiaobao, and everything will make sense. Tai Bai, if you are not in the mood to work today, why don't you and I take a leave of absence after this morning? I will go to Savant's restaurant with you to drink and have a good drink. We will start to work hard tomorrow. Savant's restaurant posted a new menu outside this morning. There are 10 dishes, all related to garlic sprouts. I still have the 40 strings of cash coupons from this season when I ate at Zhang Wang and Wang restaurants. It was given to me because I got an excellent minister in last season's evaluation. In order to have a chance to meet Zhang Xiaobao, the registrar planned to further improve his relationship with Li Bai. Garlic sprouts were indeed a good thing. Some people thought that they were better than chives. With the appearance and end of the wind logistics, garlic sprouts became popular. In order to attract customers, all restaurants followed the example of Zhang Wang and Wang restaurants and launched a series of garlic sprouts dishes. Whenever a customer ate a garlic sprout, the waiter would tell them the story of the windy flow of the Hunan province. The waiter would tell them about the power of the windy bridge. He would tell them about the pain of not being able to eat garlic from the north and south of the Yangtze River, up and down the Yellow River, and out of the sea. Finally, he would emphasize that Zhang Xiaobao's book was about how it was lonely at the top. In any case, it was to tell the diners that they were not eating garlic sprouts, but loneliness and loneliness. After half a month, the garlic sprouts became popular. The price of garlic sprouts increased slightly, but it did not reach the level of the windy bridge. The main reason was that the garlic sprouts could be cut several times, and the number of sprouts that grew from a garlic clove was more than the garlic clove itself. As the garlic sprouts became popular, the price of chives, which were similar to the garlic sprouts, began to decrease. Just when some people were worried that the chives would not sell well, and Li Longji was looking forward to how Zhang Xiaobao would benefit his family, between the clouds and the water and blue sea silver sand launched a series of dishes again. It was a chives feast. Most of the ways to make chives were not strange. What was strange was that the Zhang and Wang families had gotten so many yellow chives from somewhere. They were just like garlic sprouts. After tasting them, they realized that they were not as spicy as the chives and were as tender as the garlic sprouts. Chapter 878. It was not as if the clouds were pressing down on the border or the wind was blowing. Passers-by occasionally asked about the object in the carriage. It was as white as snow and sparkling as crystal. The introduction of the yellow chives seemed to have a tendency of overtaking the garlic sprouts. In the palace, Li Longji was eating the dumplings made with yellow chives and drinking a bowl of garlic soup. He seemed to be talking to the eunuchs and palace maids in the hall. How is it? How was it? How was it? Did I guess it? Luo Bin, you tell him. Luo Bin was at a loss. He didn't understand what His Majesty was asking. When he saw His Majesty looking at him, he quickly said, "Your Majesty is really a god. The meaning of your words a few days ago, I didn't expect it to come true today. Your Majesty's power makes people sigh." Hearing Luo Bin's praise, Li Longji happily ate another dumpling. He asked Luo Bin again, "Do you know how I guessed the specifics?" Luo Bin was confused. Specifics? Who knew what specifics? Just as he was fretting, Gao Lishir walked in with a tray in his hand. He helped Luo Bin out of his predicament and said, "Your Majesty, I am well aware of what you said a few days ago. Zhang Xiaobao still has a backup plan that has yet to be revealed. When it is revealed, the Zhang and Wang families will definitely be able to earn a lot of money. Your Majesty's scheming is truly admirable." "Humph, a small trick, a small trick. Even if Zhang Xiaobao is as cunning as a fox, he won't be able to deceive me. Without the garlic sprouts first, how could the yellow chives sell so well?" Li Longji had a scheming and astute appearance. He slightly raised his chin and acted as if he did not care about anything. "Your Majesty, the sweet garlic is marinated. Please try it. In the future, if you want to eat yellow chives, you can ask the Agriculture Temple to specially plant them. The method is simple. If it is kept in the shade for a long time, its leaves will definitely turn yellow." Gao Lishir replaced Li Longji's chin and put the tray on the table. He then introduced the method of planting chives. Li Longji paused for a moment. He hadn't expected that growing yellow leeks would be so simple. Looking at the garlic on the plate, he picked up a piece and placed it in his mouth, nibbling on it. Immediately, he nodded in satisfaction. Good. This garlic tastes very good. It can be eaten with rice and is refreshing and appetizing. From now on, my great Tang will have another delicacy. Your Majesty's words are extremely correct. However, in the future, there will definitely be countless garlic sprouts in the fields of our dynasty. This subject is afraid that the garlic will always be abundant and the garlic farming will suffer losses. This subject must carefully consider." Gao Lishir reminded. His eyes were fixed on the skin of the garlic that Li Longji had peeled off. It was translucent and lustrous. He continued, "Your Majesty, you may not know, but the skin of the sweet garlic is still edible. It is crisper than the garlic cloves and is more chewy. If you choose to marinate it with green garlic, its skin will be chewy but not dry." When Li Longji heard Gao Lishir's words, he couldn't help but pick up another one. This time, he ate it along with the skin. He nodded and said, "It's indeed not bad. We'll discuss this matter in the morning assembly tomorrow." Gao Lishir took note of these words and said to Li Longji, "Your Majesty, when this subject went to get the garlic just now, I received a telegram about Xinlua. What's the matter?" "That's one part of Xiaobao's chain of plans. Some time ago, he transferred garlic from Xinlua into our Tang Empire. He used the sweet garlic formula to exchange for it, so Xinlua collected garlic in the country to make sweet garlic. However, the sweet garlic formula requires a lot of sugar. Xinlua has no sugar available, so they want to buy it from our Tang Empire." Gao Lishir unhurriedly explained the contents of the telegram. "Oh, there's such a thing?" If it was the Li Longji of the past, he might not have had much of a reaction. But now, he was very interested in what Zhang Xiaobao had done. He felt that this matter was definitely unusual. Yes, there are already people who want to transport sugar from other places to Dengzhou and sell it to Xinlua, but Xiaobao stopped them, didn't he? Without waiting for Gao Lishir to finish, Li Longji continued to ask, "Your Majesty is wise. Xiaobao ordered people to buy sugar in Dengzhou. He said that when a large number of new garlic arrived, they would be able to gather and make sweet garlic. Therefore, the merchants who wanted to sell sugar to Xinlua immediately sold it to the Zhang family and Wang family. No one dared to stop them. The sugar carts gathered over there were endless. Gao Lisha replied with a face full of pride. Li Longji put down his chopsticks and said, "How can there be so much sugar? It's probably because the merchants brought empty carts and wanted to exchange more things from Xinlua." With Xiaobao's help, naturally no one dared to object. The logistics of the wind was like yesterday. Do you know why Xiaobao did this? This subject doesn't know. I think there must be a deeper meaning. Do I need you to tell me? When did Xiaobao say he would come back? Tell him to come as soon as possible. I want to punish him in the hibiscus garden. You're in charge of it. Also, you can bring the cookware from the Imperial Kitchen and promise to make chili fried potato slices for me. I've been waiting and waiting. I'm guilty, yet I still dare to delay time. Li Longji couldn't think of Zhang Xiaobao's follow-up actions, but he remembered the dishes that Zhang Xiaobao promised to make.
He still didn't know what potatoes looked like.
Yes, this subject will remember. Xiaobao might have already set off. Along with Xiaobao will be the leaders of the various Turkic tribes. When the time comes, Your Majesty will need to personally confer officials to show the kindness of the great Tang. Gao Lisha agreed. At the same time, he was looking forward to the potato-fried chili. When we reach the capital, we'll probably be able to settle the marriage and continue to live together. On the small river that connected the Luoshui River to the capital, Zhang Xiaobao personally rowed, while Wang Wan sat across from Zhang Xiaobao. The two of them slowly made their way forward while chatting. The two of them were the only ones on the small boat. The others were on another boat. Zhang Xiaobao recalled the matter that he had received from his family before leaving and asked Wang Wan. We've always lived together since we were young. Could it be that we're deliberately separating just because of the engagement? I'm not that hypocritical. Who would dare speak ill of us behind our backs and ruin our reputations? Wang Wan didn't think too much about it and directly replied, No, that doesn't matter. What I mean is that you see, the two of us aren't young anymore. Nowadays, we're also advocating for late marriage. The main reason is because of late childbirth. After all, giving birth to Xiaobao's baby has a negative effect on a woman's body. Generally speaking, it's about right around the age of 20. But that, actually, if we don't carry out human reproduction at our age, it's also, right? Zhang Xiaobao's words were spoken intermittently. In the end, he didn't directly say what he wanted to do. Not only did he stutter, but his face was also red. His hands were still rowing, but if one looked closely, they would discover that when the oar touched the surface of the water, it actually created continuous circles of ripples. It could no longer display the level of a single oar gently pushing against the shore. Wang Wan looked at the sky and sniffed. Seeing that he had been silent for too long, she asked, If you want to do something, just say it. Is there a need to be polite between the two of us? Say it directly? All right, then I'll say it. Now that the weather is warm, after the engagement, when we go to bed at night, can we count the stars together? Zhang Xiaobao, who had mustered up his courage, finally said it. After saying it, his whole body collapsed, and he lay there on the ground. Wang Wan stopped looking at the sky and turned back to Zhang Xiaobao. She said earnestly, Xiaobao, your EQ is a little lacking. Don't count the stars, you should count the moons. Be good. After Zhang Xiaobao counted the moons for a period of time, the group entered the capital. MOG and company bid farewell to Zhang Xiaobao and reported first to learn the etiquette of meeting the emperor. They couldn't be rude. Zhang Xiaobao muttered, There's a moon in the sky and a moon in the water. The moon in the sky is in the water, and the moon in the water is in the sky. Along the way, Wang Wan, who was always smiling, stayed at Savant's restaurant. They didn't even return to their home in the capital. What arrived before Zhang Xiaobao's group were the new vegetables produced by the Jian and greenhouse. There weren't many, and they were preparing to keep the seeds. The vegetables they brought were given to Li Longji, and the rest were eaten at home. When Li Longji, who was thinking about the chili fried potatoes, heard that the eunuch on duty had arrived, he didn't care about MOG at all. The first thing he asked was, Where is Zhang Xiaobao? Why didn't he enter the palace? Replying to your majesty, little Jidushi Zhang and Deputy Jidushi Wang have returned to Savant's restaurant. They didn't even go to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Jidushi in the capital. I heard someone report that Jidushi Zhang said something about a moon in the sky and a moon in the water.
He's probably sick.
Maybe he caught a cold? The eunuch on duty even found excuses for Zhang Xiaobao. He had taken money from him, so he naturally had to protect him. It would be strange if Li Longji believed him. The cold hasn't been treated yet? He kept muttering along the way. Then I will immediately give an edict to the medical school. If he brings his younger brother and sister, won't he bring good doctors? Oh, the sky, the moon. Yes, I understand. What's in the moon? Chang Xiaobao is old. It's time to set the marriage and arrange for people. You should go personally. Tell Xiaobao that tomorrow morning, I will first discuss the marriage of Bohai Jidushi and Deputy Jidushi with the officials. I'm hungry. Li Longji was finally smart. Although the clues he guessed were wrong, the result was the same. As for whether it was appropriate to put the marriage of an official before the court, where only fifth-rank officials could participate, he didn't think too much about it. He believed that those who understood would naturally understand, and those who didn't would also understand. The eunuch on duty was smarter, but he wasn't stupid. He didn't arrange for Li Longji to eat. He agreed and respectfully retreated, rushing to Savant's restaurant with the fastest speed. When he arrived, it didn't take him long to see Zhang Xiaobao, who was counting the moons in a daze. Although Zhang Xiaobao didn't understand how to count the moons, he was very clear when it came to other things. At this time, he was holding onto his brush. His eyes were fixed on the paper in front of him. His other hand was lightly tapping his face as he muttered to himself. A moon in the sky, a moon in the water. Looking at the moon, homesick, one in the water, one in the sky. He repeated it a few times, then said, I told you all to count the moons for me. You want to buy candy in my great Tang? Wait until I can count the stars. The eunuch on duty was stunned. What was wrong with this Zhang Xiaobao? He was singing and talking. Wang Wan, who had been beside Zhang Xiaobao all this time, burst out laughing. She pinched the brush and took it out from Zhang Xiaobao's mouth. She glanced at him and said, Xiaobao, I have to admit that your EQ is a little lacking, but your IQ is definitely not a problem. If I let you count the moons for a few days, you can use it to scheme against others. Fine, in a few days, I'll let you count how many stars there are. And the emperor has sent someone to see you. Aren't you going to welcome him? How many? Zhang Xiaobao looked at the eunuch and asked as he stood up. A lot. Wang Wan turned her face away and said, Of course I know a lot, but young Master Zhang, please take a seat. I'm just here to take a look. I heard that young Master Zhang and Miss Wang are back. I wish I could grow wings and fly over to take a look. But I'm on duty. Fortunately, His Majesty is kind enough to send me here. The eunuch on duty didn't dare to let Zhang Xiaobao say welcome words. If he wasn't confused by the conversation between the two, he wouldn't let Zhang Xiaobao stand up. What's the matter? You can leave after you finish eating here. Someone, come and tell the kitchen to make an Earth-class 1-star set meal. Remove one dish and add a dish of scrambled eggs with tomatoes brought back from overseas. Zhang Xiaobao didn't bother to exchange pleasantries with the eunuch and gave the order. When the eunuch on duty heard the word overseas, his smile was filled with gratitude. He had never eaten before. He wasn't afraid that Zhang Xiaobao would ask him to stay for a meal.
Just now he said that he was on duty.
He thought that he would put the food in a box and take it away. He quickly said, Thank you, young Master Zhang. I'm hungry.
And? Oh.
Go back and tell the emperor. I will immediately give the order to transfer 1,000 dan of refined rice from the Bohai Protectorate into the palace. Zhang Xiaobao was slightly stunned. He understood that the eunuch was imitating Li Longji's words. Because the northeastern rice had a longer maturity period, it tasted better. So, he followed the eunuch's words. The eunuch on duty blinked and looked at Zhang Xiaobao. He said, Young Master Zhang, it's not about transferring rice. I suddenly remembered something. The The emperor has said first. Tomorrow, in the court, other matters will be postponed. First, we will discuss the marriage of the Bohai Protectorate governor. Young Master Zhang, it seems that the emperor wants to give the Bohai Protectorate governor a morning greeting.
Ah?
There's such a thing? Cuckoo, don't look at the wall.
Come with me.
The emperor is hungry. I have to personally cook for the emperor to show my loyalty. To be able to take care of the Bohai Protectorate governor like this as a subject, I am honored. Zhang Xiaobao stopped tidying up his desk. He pulled Wang Wan, whose face had suddenly become rosy, and hurriedly walked out. When he reached the door, he turned around and said to the eunuch on duty, "Let's go together. Don't wait for the food. We'll talk later." Okay. Young Master Zhang, wait for me. Young Master Zhang, good, very good. These two things are fried together. The taste is fresh, spicy, and refreshing. Xiaobei, Xiaoyuan, and all of you try it. In the hibiscus garden, Li Longji was happily eating. The food was still hot and had just been fried. There was no need for others to test the poison. When he saw Xiaobei come over with Zhang Xiaobao, he lowered his head and worked hard to deal with the venison in front of him. Xiaobei was no different from returning to the palace. He did not have the slightest fear of meeting the emperor. Hearing this, Wei Wei looked up and curled her lips. It's not good. I like to eat mashed potatoes. Brother made the sauce himself. When it's paired with thin chopped green onions, it's fragrant. Oh, can it be made into other dishes? Li Longji knew something. When he saw the sauce around Xiaobei's mouth, he laughed and asked, "Xiaobei, I gave you the task of inspecting all the officials of the Tang Empire. Did you find them?" When he said this, Xiaobei was happy. He had more power. He stuck out his tongue and licked the sauce back. He replied, "Not yet. When I received the news, I was already at Sanshui County. Who did I check? Before I met the emperor, all the officials were very obedient. No one spent money to welcome me. I'll endure it for now. We'll talk about it again when we reach another place. Then I'll wait for our Xiaobei to go on a killing spree." Li Longji did not know why, but as long as he saw Xiaobei, his mood would become very good. Unfortunately, he could not find him in the palace. He could only hope that Panda would perform well. And this subject will definitely help your majesty solve your worries. If anyone dares to not listen to the emperor, I'll go and teach them a lesson. Xiaobei said righteously. Looking at Xiaobei's serious expression, Li Longji laughed out loud. He thought to himself, even if there's no problem with the person Xiaobei found, with Xiaobei's cute appearance, I'll still be able to convict him. As he watched, Li Longji was a bit absent-minded. He then looked at Zhang Xiaobao, who was busy cooking, and Wang Wan, who was wiping his sweat from time to time. He let out a long sigh. Time really flies. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had grown up. He remembered that when he was asked to draw a portrait of the two of them, weren't they just like Xiaobei? It was like a dream. Many places in the palace had changed. The capital had changed. The great Tang had also changed. Many of the court's officials had retired, while others had left. Xiaobao and Cuckoo had also changed. But no matter how he looked at it, it seemed that the only thing that had changed was their appearance. Their calm and collected eyes still did not show any anger.
Pa.
While Li Longji was immersed in his memories, Zhang Xiaobao brought out the last dish. There were 4 meat dishes and 4 vegetable dishes. 4 were cold and 4 were hot. There was a vegetable soup. The fried shredded potatoes on top of the soup were golden brown, making it seem like a work of art. There were not many dishes, but there was a lot. Everyone who saw it was given a share. Li Longji was so happy that he even let the palace maids and eunuchs waiting to the side have a taste. Li Longji and Zhang Xiaobao did not stand on ceremony. They did not say anything and just casually pointed at a chair for them to sit next to him. After washing his hands, Zhang Xiaobao threw the towel he used to wipe his hands to a eunuch and then lazily sat next to Li Longji. He leaned back and also did not say anything. "Xiaobao, of the things you had people bring back from faraway places, are the yields of sweet potatoes, and corn really high?" They're tall, especially potatoes. They're easy to grow and can be eaten as a vegetable or as a meal. Yes, they can also be eaten as snacks, Xiaobao said confidently. The snacks at the end were added when he saw Xiao Bei look over. Oh, that is to say, even if our great Tang is hit by a disaster at the same time and the production of rice and flour drops sharply, we can still survive by planting crops that are not picky about the soil. Is that right?
Yes.
Seeing Zhang Xiaobao's bored expression, Li Longji was not angry. If it were anyone else, with the exception of Zhang Zhong, who dared to have such an attitude, he would have already pulled them down and beheaded. Wei Wei smiled. Li Longji looked up at the sky and said to Zhang Xiaobao, Xiaobao, look at the round moon in the sky. Look carefully, do you see Jade Rabbit? Zhang Xiaobao did not even look up. How could there be a moon in the middle of the day? Besides, even if it was nighttime, there should only be a waning moon today. Li Longji must be doing this on purpose. Zhang Xiaobao, whose face was about to turn green, muttered to himself. He then turned to look at Wang Wan and found that after coming out of Savant's restaurant, Wang Wan seemed to have changed into a different person. She liked to lower her head, and the tips of her ears were red. The puzzled Zhang Xiaobao said to Li Longji, I see. I see it. Jade Rabbit is crushing medicine. Chapter 879. We heard that you, Xiaobao, have been feeling unwell for the past few days. Is that true? Li Longji was very concerned about Zhang Xiaobao's condition and deliberately asked. Zhang Xiaobao's good mood suddenly turned bad. It could be seen from his face that he was staring at the dishes, as if he regretted not poisoning them. Seeing that Zhang Xiaobao was not easy to deal with, the red-faced Wang Wan couldn't take it anymore. She could bully Zhang Xiaobao, but she definitely couldn't allow others to bully him. She coughed lightly and even omitted the respectful address. Xiaobao hasn't been feeling well recently. It's mainly because he thinks too much. It's not easy to look at the moon and think about things all day. Li Longji held back his laughter and followed along with Wang Wan's words. Then don't let him think about it anymore. Be careful that he doesn't fall ill from overwork. That's right, I think so too. Who cares if Xi and Luo's plan is completed or not? Let it go, let it all go. Even if Xi and Luo is returned to the Tang Empire's territory, what's the use? Xiaobao won't look at the moon at night in the future. Count the stars with me. Wang Wan looked at Zhang Xiaobao with heartache and said to Li Longji. Li Longji had just picked up a potato slice, and his mouth was still open when his chopsticks stopped in front of him. He looked at the blushing Zhang Xiaobao and then at Wang Wan, who had started to pour wine for Zhang Xiaobao and was momentarily speechless. Humph, 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 humph. Xiaobei lowered her head and laughed. Although she was young, she knew a lot of things. Her ability to understand was also very strong. She could understand Uncle Emperor's distress. Looking at the two of them being lovey-dovey, Li Longji put the potato slice into his mouth and chewed it twice. He turned to Xiaobei and asked, Xiaobei, do you know what your brother thinks of when he looks at the moon? I don't know. It's not time to eat mooncakes yet. Could it be that he wants to raise rabbits? I heard that rabbits like to eat carrots. I like to eat them too. Eating carrots can make one smarter, right, Xiaoyuan? Xiaobei replied with her chopsticks in her mouth and asked Xiaoyuan. Ah, you're asking me? Is that so? I don't like it. Xiaoyuan was eating a candied sweet potato, so when he heard Xiaobei ask, he answered hesitantly. Xiaobei glared at him. After thinking about it, she decided not to make things difficult for Xiaoyuan. She didn't know what love was, but when she saw her brother and sister, she knew that she would be together with Xiaoyuan in the future. As for what they would do together, it would probably be like Sister Cuckoo. Therefore, when there were outsiders around, she had to give Xiaoyuan some face. Li Longji glanced at the family in front of him. He was a little dazed, a little depressed, a little happy, a little disappointed, a little in any case, it was a very complicated feeling. He wanted to make a decision, but he couldn't. Today, he finally had the upper hand, but before he could savor it, he was kicked into a disadvantageous position again. Xiaobao, your health is important. I will send someone to bring you to the pharmacy in a moment. See if there is any medicine that you can use. Take it back and get well. You must get well. Li Longji really wanted to ask Zhang Xiaobao to tell him how the moon found a way to deal with Xinlua, but he couldn't say it out loud. According to the rules of the game, he had to give something. He couldn't be conferred any more positions, so he had to give medicinal herbs. Zhang Xiaobao took the opportunity to make a psychological suggestion and finally returned to normal. Thinking about it, his family didn't seem to lack anything, but if he didn't want it, he would be breaking the rules. Suddenly, he saw Xiaobei eating and had a new idea. Your Majesty, this subject is cold all over. I heard that there are many brocades in the palace. I wonder if you can give this subject some warmth? Okay. You've worked hard, Minister Zhang. Li Longji didn't ask anyone if there was any brocades in the palace. He readily agreed. Even if there wasn't any, he had to get someone to send it over. What do you want that for? Wang picked up the glass of wine, took a sip, and asked Zhang Xiaobao. I see that Xiaobei has been playing maze games in recent days. It's too tiring to make a maze with other things, so it's better to make it with brocades. Zhang Xiaobao replied softly, then said to Li Longji, Your Majesty, this subject heard that Xinluo recently wanted to collect a large amount of sweets. I suddenly remembered that Xinyuan Island is located in the south, and the crops take more than a year to mature. If people were to go there and plant sugar beets or sugarcane, the output would definitely be not small, especially in the islands further south. Xiaobao, are you saying that you want the people of Xinluo to go to the island southwest of Xinyuan Island? You want them to plant sugar beets and sugar beets, so that they can obtain sugar easily? Li Longji understood the meaning behind Zhang Xiaobao's words. Your Majesty is wise, but this subject doesn't know if the moon there is as round as Xinluo. Cuckoo also thinks so. Therefore, this subject and Cuckoo have been sighing at night for many days. One moon in the sky, one in the water. Xiaobao, you've suffered. No matter how Li Longji looked at it, he felt that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang had a special kind of tacit understanding. It seemed that looking at the moon had become a matter between the two of them. As someone who had experienced it before, he could roughly guess, so he wanted to help. Xiaobao, don't worry. I'll settle your matter tomorrow so that you won't have to look at the moon anymore. That's great. I can count the stars now. Your Majesty, this subject has thought of something. It's related to the train. When this subject returns today, I'll write a detailed plan. In this instant, Zhang Xiaobao became spirited. His back straightened, his eyes brightened, and even his thoughts became nimble. Li Longji was also relieved. He knew that after tomorrow's morning court, Zhang Xiaobao's memorial would definitely set off a storm. His efforts had finally paid off. The next morning, the fifth-rank officials of the capital entered the court. Secret Service Officer K, Mo Jilian, and the other leaders of the Turkic tribes also came. Li Longji didn't show any signs of excitement because of the arrival of the two. According to what they had agreed on yesterday, he first proposed to the officials that the marriage of the Bohai provincial governor and deputy provincial governor had to be carried out with a court ceremony. To him, 1,000 or 10,000 Mo Jilians couldn't compare to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang. The officials thought that the emperor would first mention the matter of rewarding Secret Service Officer K, but who knew that the emperor would mention Zhang Xiaobao and Wang? If he wanted to carry out with the court ceremony, then it was no different from being a member of the imperial family. How is it? After Li Longji expressed what he wanted to do, he saw that the officials were silent. So he asked. If it wasn't Zhang Xiaobao and Wang, if it were two people who weren't members of the imperial family, someone would have already stood up to oppose and collect evidence in order to gain benefits. However, this matter involved Zhang Xiaobao and Wang. Unexpectedly, no one in the court made a sound. They were all thinking about how to get into the line of sight of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang. Secret Service Officer K once again felt the strength of Zhang Xiaobao. Seeing that Li Longji was waiting for others to speak, he immediately echoed, "This subject was just about to mention this matter. I didn't expect that your Majesty had already thought of it." Chapter 880. Under Li Longji's gaze, All of them expressed their opinions one after another. Regardless of whether they were sincere or not, at least they seemed to be sincere on the surface. Everyone agreed, and Li Longji's proposal of democracy was approved. The following details would be left to the Ministry of Rights to handle. What method would they use? Would they use the method used by the imperial clan, or the method used by the commoners? There were many things involved, and it would take some time to figure it out. Outside the Hanyuan Palace Hall, Li Bai, the governor of the Ministry of Revenue, was standing there with a registrar accompanying him. The two of them were here to look for Zhang Zhong. Ever since the last self-analysis, Li Bai had decided to do his job well. Today, when he heard from the registrar that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had returned, he couldn't wait to see them. Who would have thought that when they first arrived at the Savant's restaurant, which was open 24 hours a day, and handed in the invitation, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. No one came out to tell them to enter, nor did they say what kind of reception they would receive. Only the registrar was quick-witted. When he saw an official turn around and leave after handing in the invitation, he immediately chased after him to ask. When he found out that the other party was from the Ministry of War, the left assistant minister, he didn't expect to be summoned. Turning around and leaving was the rule. This was because there were many officials who came to look for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. As long as the two of them were not in a hurry to go somewhere else, perhaps the prime minister would also come to take a look and discuss matters. He was in a hurry to leave because he had to attend the morning court. He couldn't delay, otherwise he wouldn't be able to enter. Only then did Li Bai and the registrar understand. They followed him to the outer wall of the Hanyuan Palace Hall and listened to the movements inside. They planned to wait until after the morning court to meet with Zhang Zhong and tell him about the feelings of Jidushi. At this time, Li Bai was very upset. He heard the voice of the eunuchs who were in charge of relaying messages in the courtyard, fearing that no one else could hear them. He thought of his wife and felt that he had lived in vain. He had never heard of Zhang Xiaobao having a court ceremony at his wedding. Thinking of this, Li Bai turned around and left. The registrar hurriedly pulled him back. Tai Bai, where are you going? Don't you want to see Zhang Xiaobao? Write a poem, write it for my family, write it for Zhang Xiaobao. I still have a wife at home. Li Bai stopped. He looked into the distance and said, since I can't give her a gift, I'll give her something else. See you later. Sigh. Then, but Tai Bai Jinxing help me write one too. Not for Fragrant Pond houses you, but for my family's, this side wrong. The registrar paused for a moment, then thought of something and followed him out. In the Hanyuan Palace Hall, the marriage of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan was settled. When the officials thought that they were going to give Kei Tuqin and the others official positions, Zhang Zhong stood up and said, Your Majesty, I have something to discuss with you. Pairs of eyes suddenly looked over. At this moment, Zhang Zhong was shining brightly in everyone's eyes. It was not because of his status as a minister. There were many ministers, but they had never seen a minister whose children's marriages were managed by the imperial court. One by one, they looked at Zhang Zhong. It was hard to tell whether they were envious or jealous. In any case, they were no longer as calm as before. Li Longji nodded and said, Minister Zhang, please speak. This morning, I met with my son Xiao Bao at Savant's restaurant. When we were eating, we talked about the Ministry of Works. Xiao Bao told me that the Ministry of Works is currently funded by the Imperial Court. However, there are many people in the Ministry of Works and it should be self-sufficient. Therefore, I have a plan for the Ministry of Works to do business. The first thing they should do is to rent out steam engines and ships. I was afraid that the secret of the steam engine would be leaked, so I did not agree. However, I was worried that this matter was important, so I had to ask. If the others agree, I will ask Xiao Bao again. Zhang Zhong said excitedly. It was not because of the steam engine. That thing was just sitting there. It was mainly because of the marriage of his son and daughter-in-law. Previously, he was still worried about how to carry out the series of steps. In the morning, when he heard his daughter Xiaobei say that they might use the gift of the imperial court, he was worried that the officials would not agree. Now that the matter had come to an end, he could not control himself when he thought about the future. Li Longji looked at Zhang Zhong and could not understand how Zhang Zhong could have such a calm son and daughter-in-law. Look at Xiao Bao. No matter what he did or said, he was always so indifferent. Yesterday, he had managed to gain the upper hand with great difficulty. In the end, his daughter-in-law, who had not married into the family, took away a pile of brocades from him. Sighing in his heart, Li Longji did not care whether Keidachin and the others were anxious or not. He said to Zhang Zhong, "Minister Zhang, you have worked hard. How is the research on the steam engine going? According to the rules set back then, it needs to be replaced generation after generation. Which generation is it now?" "The second generation. We are currently researching the third generation. Xiao Bao wants to take out the second generation, put it on the ship, and send it to the entrance of the Bohai Sea to be rented." When this subject asked about it, he refused to tell the subject in detail, saying that he was afraid that this subject would worry too much. When Zhang Zhong was speaking, he was not thinking about the steam engine at all. He was thinking about how the little immortal's son and daughter-in-law would give birth to a bunch of little immortals in the future. When that time came, their family would be even livelier. Before Li Longji could speak, Yuan Xianyao stepped forward and stopped him. This subject believes that this cannot be done. If it was any other matter, he would not care. However, he had no choice but to ask about the steam engine. This was the most advanced technology in the Great Tang, besides the telegraph. He had seen ships with steam engines before. They were very fast and, most importantly, they saved on manpower. Although they could not drive the propeller perfectly and only had wheels on the side, the bottom of the ship was equipped with a propeller. At the critical moment, they could change gears. Even if the bearings could not hold on for too long, they could still charge for a short period of time. Together with the cannons, their might was immeasurable. If this thing was rented out, and another country obtained one and disassembled it to study the technology, how great of a loss would the Great Tang suffer? No, absolutely not. No matter what, he could not listen to Zhang Xiaobao anymore. Yuan Xianyao thought in his heart as he looked firmly at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong, on the other hand, had an indifferent attitude. If it was possible, then it was fine. If it was not, then forget it. When the time came, the Ministry of Works would still do it like before. Li Longji frowned. It was not because he wanted to rent a ship. The Ministry of Works was earning money, or the leakage of technology. It was because he could not think of what Xiao Bao was going to do. Bohai, then the opposite should be Japan and Xinhua. Which country was he going to focus on? "Your Majesty." Gao Lishir, who was standing at the back, leaned forward. "HM?" Li Longji and Wei Wei turned their heads and listened. "I reckon that Xiao Bao is going to make a big move again. Maybe it's because Your Majesty agreed to help him with the marriage yesterday, so he put more effort into the matter of the Great Tang. According to the past situation, Xiao Bao's plan will eventually form a chain. Things will definitely not be as simple as what Minister Zhang said." Gao Lishir spoke up for his godson, meaning that he wanted Li Longji to agree. Li Longji nodded and sat up straight. He looked at Zhang Zhong and Yuan Xianyao in front of him and said, "Minister Zhang, since it was Xiao Bao's idea, I should have agreed. However, this matter is too important. I need a detailed plan to reassure the people." "Yes, I will remember." Zhang Zhong understood. The emperor meant that regardless of whether there was a detailed plan or not, he would support Xiao Bao. However, in order to shut others up, he had no choice but to ask for a copy. Yuan Xianyao opened his mouth but didn't say anything in the end. He could only wait for the plan and take a closer look at it to see what else Zhang Xiaobao could do with his devilish calculations. This matter was considered to have been discussed. The other officials didn't interrupt and didn't dare to directly object. If Zhang Xiaobao's plan was effective, wouldn't they say too much? If Zhang Xiaobao thought that they had ulterior motives, they wouldn't be able to enjoy good things in the future. It was only at this time that Li Longji turned his gaze to Keidachin and the others. He began to confer official positions, praise, and made a promise to treat the people of the Great Tang well. From the beginning to the time when Keidachin and the others were rewarded, they didn't show any dissatisfaction. They didn't have any manpower available and couldn't raise any conditions with Li Longji. At the same time, they were more afraid that if they showed an unsuitable attitude and Zhang Xiaobao found out, he might do something. In the courtyard of the savant's pavilion, Xiaobei and the others were still sleeping. They were tired from eating and playing yesterday. The sun was high in the sky, but they didn't wake up. Xiaobei, who was sharing a small bed with Xiaoyuan, squeezed Xiaoyuan until he was about to fall off. If Xiaobei didn't use Xiaoyuan's arm as a pillow, Xiaoyuan would probably be sleeping on the floor now. I asked you to compose a poem for me, but you didn't. If there weren't outsiders, I would have let you know how powerful I am. Xiaobei kept muttering in his sleep. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who came to see their younger siblings, bent down to listen to Xiaobei's muttering. They vaguely heard the sentence. After wiping the saliva from his sister's mouth, Zhang Xiaobao looked at Wang Wan with a smile and opened his arms.
What?
You want to be a target for me to practice my boxing? Wang Wan asked, puzzled. Nothing. Just a hug. Zhang Xiaobao moved forward. Wang Wan stood still and let Zhang Xiaobao hug her. She said, "What are you doing in broad daylight? You're like a child."
How old are you?
Let's go. I'll accompany you to perfect the plan. You'll solve Xinlua and weaken Japan within a year. Your goal isn't small, but you might not succeed. Let's do it first. As long as Xinlua has ambition, I'm confident. Should we wait for the engagement steps to be completed? We don't have to worry about counting the days after that. Then we can get married. Then we can sleep together? Zhang Xiaobao was more straightforward when it came to other things, but he didn't know how to do this kind of thing. Wang Wan still deliberately teased him and said, "Yes, then from today onwards, don't live together at night. Otherwise, you'll sleep like Xiaobei and be dishonest."
I'm talking about that.
What? It's counting the stars. Why didn't I collect information about this back then?
You're so silly.
Let's go down and see how many officials have sent us posts. See if there's anything useful in them. We have to take a good look at them. Wang Wan's evaluation of Zhang Xiaobao in this regard was that he was cute. Just like that, she was hugged by Zhang Xiaobao and moved to the door step by step. There's a Li Bai here. It says that he's in charge of his position. Here, take a look. It's very interesting. He even gave an opinion. After flipping through the names and the posts that came with them, Zhang Xiaobao found Li Bai's and handed it to Wang Wan. What's written? Let me take a look. Li Bai also doesn't allow it. Fortunately, his situation now is much better than in history. I really don't know if I should let you help him like this. If there really is a minister named Li Bai in the future, then won't there be one less immortal poet? Wang Wan took it and looked at it. She suddenly laughed and said, "This Li Bai only knows how to come up with bad ideas." When I asked him to correct the form, he actually said that it was difficult to look at it. He wants to make the form transparent, and the person filling in the form has to be the same. Then, when two pieces of paper are connected, the difference can be seen. Immortal poet Li Bai. If other people know about this, what do you think they will think? But why do I feel that this method is a bit familiar? It seems that something similar appeared in that place. Of course, it's similar. When signing a contract, there are 2 layers. If the signed words are printed, then can't you cheat money? It's just that the technology is more advanced than this. It's nothing. Don't think about Li by writing poems. Why don't we let him go through the history you said again? Since we are here, let's treat it as another place. Stories, it's all stories. The things in the stories can be said to be true or not. Zhang Xiaobao was still an authority in this area. When he thought of a certain historical figure that Wang Wan occasionally mentioned, he was a little absent-minded. Wang Wan made a big cross on the method that Li Bai wrote and wrote below. Doing things is like writing poems, slowly accumulating. If it is not cold to the bone, how can the fragrance of plum blossoms assail the nose? She put it aside and leaned her head on Zhang Xiaobao's shoulder. She said softly, "Fortunately, I have you. Otherwise, what would I do if I was alone? I'll get the medicine later." "What medicine?" Zhang Xiaobao stretched out his arm and asked Wang Wan. "The medicine that won't leave any side effects when counting the stars tonight." "What medicine is that? I'm not getting it." "You should continue counting the moons." "What's wrong now?" "Counting the moons, counting the moons. Where's the plan for Xinlua? I'll let them all count the moons. The clouds in the sky were still drifting leisurely, and the sun shone through the clouds onto the ground. Beside the pond in Xingqing Palace, Li Longji and a few important officials were sitting on empty chairs. The words "authentic water cloud" were written in gold on the sides of the chairs. The weather was hot, and there was a fan blowing by the side. There was also a bowl of chilled plum juice being sipped from time to time, and there was even a large umbrella over their heads. This was supposed to be a relaxing and refreshing time, but everyone, including Li Longji, except for Zhang Zhong, was sweating nonstop. Li Linfu's hand trembled as he held a piece of paper. He had just looked at it and put it back on the small table. He gasped for breath twice and raised his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead. He leaned back and said as if he had lost all his strength, "Ruthless. Really ruthless. I wonder who will be the next after taking care of Xinlua? Japan, or the southwestern side?" Li Longji didn't care about Li Linfu's loss of composure. He smacked his lips twice and felt that it was still dry. He picked up the special herbal tea on the table that Zhang Xiaobao had given to Gao Lishir and was snatched by him. He took a sip and swept his eyes in front of the officials. In the end, his eyes stopped on Zhang Zhong's indifferent face. Everyone else was sweating. Only Zhang Zhong sat there quietly, looking like he had nothing to do. He knew Zhang Xiaobao better than anyone present. That was his son. Although the plan was a little evil, his son was a little immortal. It was normal. Everything was normal. Li Longji looked for a while and said, "Minister Zhang, has Xiaobao mentioned anything about going back to the northern part of Hebei recently?"
No.
Zhang Zhong shook his head. He will probably wait until autumn, when the crops are ripe before going back. His mother misses them, and Xiaobao also wants Bei to stay in front of us for a while. At the same time, he wants to wait for the 4 events to end. As for the wedding date, he doesn't care. When the time comes, he will welcome the bride. Zhang Zhong was experienced and knew his son's thoughts. At the same time, he felt that his son was indeed different from the children of other families. He had slept on the same bed since he was young. Those who were slightly more wealthy would have already done the wedding ceremony with other women. Looking at Cuckoo, he realized that nothing had happened at all. As for the daughter of the Wang family and his son before they got married, they probably wouldn't care. They couldn't separate the two of them just because they were going to get married. Li Longji understood as well. He couldn't just ignore it. He picked up the proposal book on the small table and flipped through it casually. He said, "I remember when I first found out about Xiaobao and Cuckoo. At that time, the two of them were using schemes to earn money. Later on, they were providing for local construction. Now, it's fine if they don't come up with a plan. Once they do, it will definitely be a plan to destroy the country. From the looks of it, the Ministry of Works can install a steam engine on the ship and send it to the entrance of the Bohai Sea for rent. Whether it's Xinlua or Japan, whoever has such thoughts will be the first to be unlucky." As Li Longji spoke, he looked at Yuan Xianyao. He had once objected. Yuan Xianyao and Li Longji looked at each other and said, "I agree, but you have to pay attention to the safety of the people from the Great Tang who are going to take care of the steam engine." At this moment, he couldn't say anything to refuse. It was written clearly in the plan. As the people who went far away returned, there would be something called rubber that would flow out of the tree. That thing had many uses. One of them was sealing. With the improvement of smelting technology, the copper and aluminum pads produced could allow the steam engine to reach a very high level in a short period of time. There was also the research on the refinement of the water. As long as the two things called gasoline or diesel were produced, or even the purity of alcohol was high enough, there would immediately be another machine that was better than the steam engine. It was called the internal combustion engine. When that time came, it would be a really good thing. It would be used in the military, and some less important technologies could be gradually opened up to the people. The plan also mentioned that the rental of the steam engine ship would not be personally managed by the person who rented it. Instead, the Great Tang would send people to be in charge of the engine room. One was to earn money. They could earn more money for the Ministry of Works, so that the Ministry of Works would not rely too much on the imperial court's financial allocation. The other was to train the crew. At the same time, the maintenance people could also practice and provide intuitive information for the construction of new motor ships. Of course, the most important thing was not these two, but the third one. The third one was that regardless of whether Xinluo wanted to go to the island next to Xinyuan Island to get sugar or specifically wanted to obtain the Great Tang's technology, they would definitely spend money to rent it. When the time came, they would accept the higher price. Currently, Xinluo had already cut down many trees in many places. At the same time, they were helping the Great Tang grow cotton. Their national strength seemed to be increasing, but in fact, they were more dependent on the Great Tang. Xinluo, who did not have much savings, had to take out a portion of the money. In terms of finances, it could be said to be one disaster after another. Then, they would need manpower to grow sugar cane and sugar beets. When there was a conflict with the local people, they would need an army. At that time, the population of Xinluo would be divided. A portion of them would run to the distant island, and their economy would become a decisive dependence. When the population decreased, Xinluo would be able to integrate into the Great Tang. If the people of Xinluo wanted to use force to snatch the steam engine ships when they were renting them, that would be even easier. Wang Wan was about to become a lady from a noble family, but did anyone feel that the knife was not effective? Yuan Xianyao could not find a reason to object. If he had to object, then he would object for the sake of objecting. There was a saying in front that he would do that, so there was naturally no need to talk about the result. After some thought, Yuan Xianyao said, "Your Majesty, I still have some doubts." Dao Lai. Seeing that Yuan Xianyao did not object, Li Longji's attitude changed accordingly. I would like to ask about the follow-up plan. Anyone who knows about Jidushi Zhang knows that when he comes out with a plan, there will definitely be a supplementary plan. The supplementary plan will be even more ruthless. I don't believe that there is only one explanatory plan. Yuan Xianyao still wanted to ask for more. He always felt that Zhang Xiaobao was more concerned about money. No matter what he did, he would still earn money in the end. Li Longji looked at Zhang Zhong. Zhang Zhong was still sitting there steadily. From time to time, he would pick up a grape and stuff it into his mouth. This was what his son and daughter-in-law had told him. When it was hot outside, one should not drink too much water. It was easy to lose salt, making one thirsty and dehydrated. It was best to eat fruits. They had high water content and could replenish water. It could also replenish sugar and other nutrients useful to the body. Moreover, this fruit sugar came and went quickly, so there was no need to be afraid of gaining weight. Of course, Zhang Zhong had to listen. His son and daughter-in-law would not harm him. Therefore, in this short period of time, he ate a lot of fruits. At this moment, when he saw the emperor looking over, he shook his head blankly. I don't know either. As for earning money, it is also the imperial court. My family does not lack money. Even if Xiao Bao earns money for my family, it is only a little. Old man Yuan Qianyao curled his lips. His beard also moved as he cursed in his heart. To Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family, earning a little would be a huge amount of wealth to others. Moreover, Zhang Xiaobao would not let go of any opportunity. Every time he did something, he would earn a little, and it was the kind of money that could last for a long time. It could be said that many things made a mickle. It was estimated that the imperial court's finances were suddenly out of money. As long as they confiscated Zhang Xiaobao and Wang family, the imperial court would be able to support them for 3 to 5 years without collecting any taxes. I don't have anything else. I just want to know the follow-up plan. I hope that Minister Zhang will urge me. Yuan Qianyao looked at Zhang Zhong, who kept eating fruits, and said with some disdain. Zhang Zhong didn't care. Could it be that he didn't lack fruits at home, but he couldn't eat them outside? Moreover, the fruits in the palace were no different from those at home. They were all quite good, and he didn't feel uncomfortable eating them. After swallowing the grape in his mouth, Zhang Zhong nodded. Then he shook his head. I will ask Jidushi Zhang, but I can't guarantee whether Jidushi Zhang will say it or not. After all, as the Minister of Works, I can't control Jidushi Zhang. Perhaps Yuan Zhongshu can ask him personally? Yuan Qianyao was almost angered to death. He muttered, "It's good that father and son are high-ranking officials. At the crucial moment, they can still use their status to differentiate. When needed, they can be the sun. When it's necessary, they can become the Jidushi Zhang." Li Longji didn't care about this. It was fine as long as he got the information he needed. He instructed Zhang Zhong and let the few of them leave. After everyone left, Li Longji asked Gao Lisher, "Xiao Bao has grown up. Previously, I said that he would participate in the imperial examinations this year, but he didn't come back. He missed it and has to wait until next year. Can you think of a way? I want to transfer him back to the capital and let him enter the secretariat. Other than not letting him be the secretariat head, everything else is fine. At that time, I will be at ease. At that time, he will have the final say. Yuan Qianyao will be the person at the front. With Xiao Bao overseeing the secretariat, I will be able to sit back and relax. As for Cuckoo, she will also be placed in the secretariat. She will be in charge of military matters. Originally, I didn't want a woman to be an official, but Cuckoo is an exception. I reckon that when Cuckoo grows up, she will also have to be given a good position." Gao Lisher nodded and said, "This subject also knows that it is fine to let Xiao Bao lead the entire Tang Empire in the Secretariat. However, Xiao Bao doesn't seem to like staying in one place. Cuckoo's thoughts are more focused on Xiao Bao. This subject feels that it is better to ask the two of them first. And go ahead and ask. If it really doesn't work out, add an additional autumn examination. Leave the top scorer position for him. Hasn't he been studying all this while and wants to rely on his own abilities to become the top scorer? What do you think we should give them after the engagement? We can see that Xiao Bao has been waiting for this day for a very long time. Ha ha ha, he actually went to look at the moon." Li Longji couldn't help but laugh when he thought of Zhang Xiaobao's arrogance. Gao Lisher also tried his best to hold back. He also couldn't understand why this godson, who was smart in other aspects and could be said to be able to scheme against the heavens and earth, would become a different person when it came to such matters. "Your Majesty, this subject feels that ordinary gifts can't be given, let alone money. Even if the official position has not been engaged, it should be given. Shouldn't it be given to a place? For example, a lake or a mountain?" You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.